aka Black Phoenix. I am the owner and founder of HogOn Welding LLC. And today I wanted to present my autobiography in a video form. So I pretty much wanted to tell my own story personally. Over the years, I have read autobiographies that was written by different authors that I respected, different people that I followed, and it was never an up close and personal story. It was written down, and most definitely you're gonna see some written books from me. But I wanted to do an audio version slash video version, coming to you live, just telling you my story, not on the script, so to speak. It's pretty much just live. I wanted to give you my introduction by just saying that everything that I'm saying is facts. It's my life. Some things I'm going to leave out, some names I'm going to leave out. But I want to tell you the story about how HogOn Welding was formed, how HogOn was formed, which has two meanings. The original meaning of it is hustling over grounded obstacles naturally. And then the business meaning is honoring our generation ornamental nature. And I want to take you on a journey just to show you how I came up with both, just from my lifestyle, like what I literally went through as a juvenile, as an adolescent, trying to find myself, just different things that happened to me, just growing up that I wasn't aware of, how it really affected me. And as we go through things in life, we realize that everything happens for a reason. And I just wanted to tell you my personal story because I feel like once you get it from the source, it can't be tainted. It ain't no, well, somebody else probably wrote this and said this. I just wanted to give it to you from my standpoint. And even though I'm calling this a audio book, we are going to have chapters, so I'm gonna say different things like chapters. So in the video, once I finally publish it, I'm gonna have different subtitles inside of the description that'll show you each title of the chapters. That way you can just go straight to it, to listen to it, or to watch it and actually obtain some wisdom from it and use me as an example. I learned that the greatest thing that I was taught before I was released from prison is, an older gentleman told me, he asked me a question. He said, son, is it better to learn from your own mistakes or someone else? And me being young, I thought for a minute, but I answered fast. I said, it's better to learn from my own mistakes. How could someone else, how can me learn from someone else really help me? And he looked at me and smiled, pushed his glasses down, I'll never forget. And he said, you got a point. But if you learn from someone else's mistakes, you don't have to go through it because you won't live long enough to learn from all of your mistakes. And it hit me. Watch what's going on around you. Watch those who make mistakes around you, those who do unwise things, those who do wise things. And that way you can add that to your lifestyle, add that to your character, add that to the things that you really want to be and the things that you want to achieve. You don't necessarily have to go through everything someone else go through verbatim. You don't have to experience that. I thought growing up that I had to experience being locked up because some of the people that I looked up to, they had been locked up and they had a different aura about themselves. They carried themselves a little different. And no lie, as a foolish adolescent child, I thought, well, maybe if I do some time, not knowing I was going to do a decade, or over a decade, counting juvenile, that I would have a different respect, that I get the respect from them. And also, I don't know, it was like it's like it was some type of hood um, recognition or banner if you survived something, like that. If you survived time or you didn't tell on nobody and you came out and you bounced back and you started getting money, or you're doing your thing, like it was like a badge of honor where I was growing up, And I didn't really have I had a father, but I I had a dad. I didn't have a father. Let me correct that and say that. So in this introduction, I just want to say, learn from me. Learn from my mistakes, from where I went wrong as an adolescent, for me doing 10 years incarcerated from 16 to 26 years old, being divorced twice, being married 3 times. I'm married now. Um, having stumbling blocks and making bad decisions, and the best thing that happened to me above all is me not giving up. So I want to share my story with you. I'm going to be in and out messing with this laptop, making sure that everything is up with my lights and stuff. Because like I say, I want to go live with you. So this is really just live, up close and personal. So I might take little breaks in here, give me a little coffee. But I wanted to tell you my story from me. So we're going to jump into this. And the name of this is going to be called The Rising of HogOn. And it's a true story of Black Phoenix. And I'm Black Phoenix. It's going to be my true story to give you more up close and personal details of my struggle and where I came from. So without further ado, let's do something that hasn't been done as of now. Let's jump into this video book. Let's go. So, chapter 1. Growing up in Arkansas and Denver hoods. I was born 1980, March the 29th, in Pulaski County Hospital in Little Rock, Arkansas. I remember my mom telling me once I got a little older that she was real prone and determined to have me born in Little Rock. My mom was from a small town, a country town called Tiller, Arkansas, and she was raised in that small area, and going to the bigger town that was down, which was still a small town, which was called McGee, Arkansas, which her family migrated to. She still didn't trust the doctors there, and she said that people had died. She just didn't trust them, and she said it was something special about me, and I was her only first son. I had to be born in the city. And the biggest city that was in the state of Arkansas is Little Rock, Arkansas. So she made sure I was born in Arkansas. So that's what she told me. She was like, you know what, you had to be born there. I just feel like you just had to be born there. And that was just her reason. So she told me that that was her reason why, we was actually born. I was actually born in that area. And I was raised actually in McGee, Arkansas / Arkansas City in Denver. And I want to talk to you a little bit about my upcoming. My mom coming up, like I said, she was in a small country town where they really didn't have a lot going on. So, once you get to a certain age where you literally walked on gravel roads, it wasn't no paved roads, it was fields and, country town. And my mom said when she got older to get away, she couldn't wait to get away, that, she met my dad, and my dad had a vehicle. She met a man that had a vehicle. He looked it nice, kind of swept her off her feet. He was a little older than her, so, he probably knew a couple things and kind of, put his passion on her, and she fell in love, you know what I mean? Not necessarily knowing this man completely, but she wanted to get away, and she felt like where she was at was in a bad situation. And only those women that's really from the South really understand, because my mom grew up when it was hard, like people on the cotton gins, chopping cotton and stuff like that. Like it was a hard upcoming. So if she could actually leave that and get to a city where a person had a vehicle, she felt like she was getting away. She was winning. And not knowing my dad's background, she just jumped into a relationship and ended up getting pregnant at 17 and moved in with my dad and grandmother and grandfather. And like I say, her life took a different path. Once I was born, a little after I was born, my dad's sister actually lived in Denver, and she felt it was better opportunities for what she was trying to do if she go to a bigger city, and my dad was, pretty much behind her. I'm like, yeah, my sister there pretty much, my grandfather was like, I think that might be a good thing for you, and at that time, like I say, I was young. And they took us up there. I wasn't exactly a baby at that time, because I remember being, playing, going to school. So I remember being in preschool, most definitely. I remember going to preschool and kindergarten there and, coming up. And I remember, those experiences. And, at one time, I remember some of my cousins coming to visit us from Arkansas. And they came to visit us, and we outside. We lived in Montbellows at the time in Denver. For those who are familiar with Montbellows, we lived in Montbellows in Denver, and my cousins came to see me. And I remember us being outside because we had a fence around the house and a basketball goal. We was in a nice. I remember we had a nice home. We had a 3-bedroom home. I had my own room. My sister had her own room. My mom only had 2 kids, me and my sister. So I remember them saying, "Man, y'all must be rich." And I remember being young, them coming from the South, coming to Denver, seeing me. They was like, y'all living good compared to how they was living. And I was, me being young, like, we ain't rich, you know what I mean? My mom worked. My mom was a CNA. So all she did was work hard. So for the women who know or are familiar with, and men are familiar with the CNA field, it's a hard field. You do a lot of the grunt work, picking up, cleaning up, and she was into that, but she got the chance to prosper in what she was doing. Because I remember vividly that I remember one time we had 3 vehicles outside. We had a van, because I remember the van because it had the table in the back where you could play cards. You remember the old vans in the 80s, had that van with the table in the back. You could sit and play cards in it. I remember that, and we had 2 vehicles. And so, from in a house on a corner lot, in Montbello. So, if I would look at it now, I would think that, man, we was doing pretty good. But, I didn't know, I was still young. I was young enough to know that we was taken care of, but I didn't know the issues that came about, but it was all about to come to a head soon. But being there, I remember going to school in Denver. Like, literally, I remember my first day at school, my mom taking me, and I remember having friends that was different races. Like, literally, it was like different races. I wasn't in a group of all black children, all white children, all, it was like literally where we was at in that area was mixed up. And I remember my friends being like, literally my friends being different colors and black, growing up. And I never forget when I was walking home from school one day. My mom said I wanted to be grown and walk home from school one day. And I remember this. But she didn't let me walk home alone. I just thought I was walking home alone. That's what she thought, because we only stayed like maybe a few blocks straight from where the school was. And, I always wanted to be independent. I told my mom, I can walk to school by myself. And I'm in kindergarten now. I want to go to school by myself. And, because, you see kids walking, but they be with their parents walking to the school. And I had some friends that was walking, so I figured I'd walk with them. And I remember walking home one day, and it was a house. I never get this spooky house, because every time I get to this house, I close my eyes and take off running. It was like a real spooky house. I don't know, man. This was like a spooky house. And then they had like this big dog there. And my mom said she fell out laughing because she was watching me. And, I make it to the house all proud. And the whole time she was following me. Like, because, I was her baby. And it was just me, it was me at the time. And my sister was, born. She was a baby. My sister, we're actually 3 years apart. I was born in 1980, and my sister was born in 83. But I remember my mom literally telling me that story of how I wanted to be independent at an early age. Like, so I just remember those first moments of me just really like always wanting to just, do things grown, or hey, let me do that, or let me cook this, or let me try that. You know what I mean? I always wanted to be that person to take the initiative to do something. And growing up in Denver, it just, I remember when we was growing up there that it was a different environment for me. Like, it was it was more friendly to me dealing with people, literally. I mean, in my personal opinion. And then when I come back to Arkansas, and I was older enough, and I remember coming back to Arkansas, it was like a culture shock because I was gone. It was like a culture shock. Like, I didn't know I couldn't talk to certain white people. Like, that's how it was told to me. No, you don't want to talk to so and so, or you don't want to go over there. And I remember one of my white friends, I remember when I was young, asked me could I spend a night at his house, and I told my mom. And he was young, I'm young, and kids, we don't know racism. We don't understand race. We don't understand that. We just understand that's my friend. That's my friend. So I told my mom, and we're in Arkansas, that I wanted to spend a night. And my mom kind of looked at me. She was like, "Joe, it might not be a good thing here. Maybe when we was in Denver and it was your friends there that was white, what I mean, it's no problem. But maybe it's not a good thing." And so she wanted to. I kept pressing her, so she went over there and met the guy's mom, and he was on her roll, and she was a good lady. I can't remember his name to this day. Like y'all, I'm bad on names. It's been so long, but I can't remember his name. But I do remember my guy because he stayed in McGee, and I remember his mom being a cool lady, and she treated me like I was her son when I stayed over there. So my mom introduced herself, and they was cool, and he'll come up. It was a cool thing, but that was like only a few times. You know what I mean? That it was like that, because when I went to Arkansas City, it was more like, don't talk to them, white girls at all. I remember my grandfather even telling me, son, don't talk to these certain people right here. You can talk to them, but don't quote them. You know what I mean? That's what the word he used. Don't quote them. It can cause you some problems. And before I get to the next chapter, I want to say my grandfather said something that stuck out to me. I remember riding in the vehicle that first day when I came to Arkansas. I remember my grandfather, because I was living with my grandfather and my mom was still in Denver. They sent me down. And my grandfather picked me up on the first day of school, I remember, and he had a vehicle, so he wouldn't let me drive the bus. They had a bus, but he came and got me. I got in the car, and I remember my grandfather, told me, asked me, "Well, grandson, how was your day today?" And I said, "Granddad, I had a good day, And he said, "You meeting the girls?" I said, "Yeah, Granddad." He said, "You get some girlfriends?" I said, "Yeah, Granddad. I got two girlfriends." And I remember I said I had two. And he stopped the car. "Two? That's it, grandson?" Because I thought, like, literally, y'all, I remember, because I thought like he hit something, because it kind of spooked me, He stopped the car real fast. He said, "Two? All you got is two girlfriends?" He said, "Grandson, you got to do better than that. You got to do better than that, grandson." Y'all, let me tell you, that messed me up. To have your grandfather, who you admire, tell you that you got to have more than one woman at a young age. Like, I'm in kindergarten. He told me this in kindergarten. You got to have more than one woman, grandson. And my grandfather was a military man. Went to World War II. He was tall in stature. He was probably 6'2", 6'4", 6'5". He was a tall man. He was between 6'2" and 6'4", probably. Tall man, and very nice build. And he did his thing. That's what his thing was. Growing up, my grandfather taught me how to pray, and he taught me how to read the Bible, and I didn't even know it. He taught it through prayer and talking to me. And I remember when I finally went to prison and I was reading in the Bible and I read across the Lord's Prayer, I remember dropping the Bible. Like, it messed me up. And I remember crying, just thinking about my grandfather. He was still alive at the time. I was like, man, he was teaching me the word. And I knew that whole prayer verbatim because he had taught it to me. But I didn't know it was in the Bible. He didn't even tell me. He was just teaching me certain things. So I think that, I'm thankful that my grandfather was a mix of, even though he had his flaws in loving women, he had a heart after God. And you know what? After me growing up and reading the word, he reminded me of David, a man that was after God's own heart, but he had a lust for women in his heart. He killed a man behind a woman. You know what I'm saying? It was his woman fetish was like wow, but he still was a man after God's own heart, and he still did great things. He learned from those mistakes, but he still did great things. And I had some flaws too, dealing with women, and it just makes me think about it now when it goes back to my grandfather stopping in that car and saying, "Grandson, you got to have more than one woman." Let's go to chapter 2. Chapter 2. My mom and I'll take that back. Chapter 2. dad's drug addiction and abuse, I hated him. I had to say it like that. Chapter 2 has to start off like that because I vividly remember my life changing. I didn't know at that moment that my dad was on drugs when everything hit the fan. I just remember our lifestyle in Denver changing because I was down there with my grandfather, and then my grandfather ended up sending me back, and then I was down there with my grandfather again. And before I got there, my life changed. Like I said, we had the house, the 2 vehicles, the van, the picket fence, the goal in the backyard, like the shed, the things that the typical American, the American dream, so to speak. From being young, I would say that, man, my mom was working towards that. She was really on that. And then, y'all, I can't lie to you. The next thing I remember was my mom, it was me and her and my sister walking into a shelter in Denver. And I remember going in there, and there was a lot of people in there. And it just had the batters. Like, you see like little bunk beds, but it wasn't bunk beds. It was just single beds, but they'll be all around one another. Or it might be a bunk bed set, and they had like, look, I never forget, it was like white dividers, like kind of like cubicles almost. And I remember walking in there with my mom and the lady taking us to where we was going to be sleeping at. And I remember this, like, y'all, I can't lie to this. I can't lie to you. I remember my mom looking around, holding my hand tight, and my sister, and saying, baby, we can't sleep in here. I would rather for us to sleep in our car than for me to put y'all in a situation, because I feel unsafe being around all of these people. And we turned around and left out, and I literally remember us sleeping in a car, my mom, my sister, and me. But it wasn't that long, so maybe it was maybe a day or so. But I remember my mom telling me my grandfather, once he was a military man, like I say, so once he had to wait, whatever happened, my dad got on drugs bad, the abuse was bad, I know, because I remember having my mom having black eyes at that time. Before my grandfather sent us, when we went, she had a black eye and probably a busted lip. And I remember her telling me my grandfather sent her the money and said, as soon as the first come, I'm going to send this money to get y'all back down here. And that's what he did. He sent us the money, and my mom drove back down. And my life went on a mean spin then. I was young, but I remember coming back to Arkansas and things changing, I was staying with my grandfather again. This time I'm a little older. My mom ended up going back to Denver because while I was down in Arkansas, I remember her sending me a gift. But before I get into that, about that gift, because I'm going to say that for the next chapter, my dad ended up getting addicted to crack cocaine. And I think at first it was freebasing. Now that I remember the story, talking to one of my uncles, they started off freebasing, for those who, are familiar with that. And then it went to Ready Rock, because they just called it Ready Rock and Rock. It wasn't called crack cocaine. The government pretty much gave it that name, crack cocaine, but it wasn't called that in the streets. It was called Ready Rock and Rock. You know what I'm saying? I remember not seeing my dad much after then, and I remember having so much frustration and hate towards this man, for what he did and why he wasn't in my life. Like, because I grew up without a guide, like I looked up so much to the streets, and my role models were the streets. I grew up in my hood in Arkansas, my hood in Shady Lane. When I grew up, it was a Crip hood. So I never had been blessed in to be a Crip, but that was my hood. So for those who understand, what's understood don't have to be explained. My OG, someone that I looked up to, the person that actually first ever handed me some Ready Rock and said, bring me a 60-40 split. He was a 9-0 Crip. Now, I wasn't banging, but I was. I kept a blue flag. You know what I mean? I stayed with blue on, but I never got like jumped in or nothing like that. It wasn't like that. That was just our hood and our respect. You know, everybody wore blue. You see what I'm saying? So it was like what it was, you know? And I remember, you know, just having those people that I looked it up to, and some of them was my cousins, you know, and I remember looking up to them and wanting to be like them, you know, and I remember really learning it and getting more involved in the streets. And I remember my mom's cousin comes down, and my mom's cousin had lived in Milwaukee for a while. So when he come down back to Arkansas, he was stressing growth and development, which is Gangster Disciple. And, you know, he was in blue too. He wore a lot of blue and black, but a lot of black. And he had a blue flag. And I remember, you know, us being blue all the time, you know what I mean? You know, it was this my mom's cousin, and I respected him too. I liked the way he talked. I liked his conversation. And later on, I ended up getting blessed in at around about 14 years old in growth and development, Gangster Disciple at the age of 14. And one reason why I ended up getting initiated, because like I say, my family was growth and development on my mom's side, and like my dad's side was Crips. But it was crazy that because a few of my dad's cousins was Bloods too, you know. So, but the ones that I was around that I respected was Crips, you know, like our hood. So, you know, where I grew up at. And one reason I became a gangster disciple was I didn't have to change my color. You know, because I grew up blue, so I wasn't gonna never change it. And then growing up in Denver, that's why I shout out to Denver. I got my orange and blue on right now. Shout out to my homeboys from Five Deuce. You know, I grew up in Denver. You know what I'm saying? And my homeboys that I hung out with, my hood there that I hung out with was Five Deuce. You know what I mean? So my hood there was Five Deuce, so it's always been blue. So blue and orange. And then I had some homies that was from, you know, different hoods that was in Denver, and we went over. But all my partners that I hung out with in Denver growing up was Crips. You know what I'm saying? And you know, it's just what it was. You know what I mean? But me being blessed in, I was blessed in as a gangster disciple. So my color never changed, and I always said "cuz" all the time, because growing up in a country town in Arkansas, you know, especially McGee and Reed and Tiller and Deramart and those small areas, you know, Dumas, you know, we say "cuz" a lot, you know, especially in the small towns, you know, because a lot of us related, and a lot of our words or phrases are short anyway. So we'd be like, "What up, cuz? What up, cuz?" You know, like I got a little brother now. You know, my little brother are blood, and um, he still say it to my cousin them, like, "What up, cuz? What up?" Because that's you know, that's just the terminology being from a small place, but we're all different. But at that time, that was just my environment. That's what I respected, and to this day, it's just what it is. You know, I'm always forever blue. You know what I mean? But I respect whatever hood you from, whatever somewhere else is from, because where you from is where you from. You're only that because of where you grew up at, and you know, it's like being a product of your environment. And I ended up turning that direction because I had no guide. Like I say, my dad was on drugs, so I looked up to those that was gang banging, those who was hustling, and pretty much it really wasn't like I can literally tell you. Growing up, I didn't see the gang banging. I seen the Crips hustling. The Crips that I grew up with, that's what, you know, it wasn't gang banging. They was getting some money and having some women. And that's what I wanted. Like my cousin them that was Crips, you know what I mean? And wearing blue, they was getting money. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I respected that. And I was like, man, they getting money. Like, so it was later, like my age peer range and a couple years over me, you know, we was doing the gang banging part, but the Crips that actually gave me the sack and pulled me to the side and said, boy, don't be robbing, you know, don't do this, you know, hustle, mess with the women, you know, but they only gave me what they could give me. But then again, like I say, I didn't have any guys, so I really looked up to them, man. And like I say, I formed a real hatred towards my father, man, because he wasn't there. Like I can't tell you that my dad gave me some type of quote that I could give you right now and tell you. The only thing that he basically really did is when my oldest daughter mom passed. I remember him coming down, and I lived in Newport at the time, and I was grown already, and out of prison. He came down and he went with me to Colorado. He drove with me, went in on the gas with me, and we went up there and drove up there and turned around and came back. I remember him doing that, and that meant a lot to me. I got to say that. And this was after, I was grown. So, he tried to make his comeback or making his comeback after I'm grown. And even to this day, right now, we really don't have a good relationship. But he is a great grandfather and great grandfather to my grandkids, and my kids. So I can't take that from him. Like my daughter, my oldest daughter, she call him Papa to this day. She get mad at him sometimes. She still go with us. She love him to death. He is who he is. Some people they just who they are. But I'm glad that my daughter have a good relationship with my dad, and she go over there and visit him. He keep her kids when she works sometimes. So they got a good relationship. So I never talk down on my dad to my kids. You know what I mean? They'll ask me how I feel. I said, I don't really mess with them, but I'm glad y'all do. I'm glad y'all got a relationship. So, I respect him, but he caused a lot of hurt in my life. And even to this day, losing my mom was, it hurt me, y'all. Like losing my mom, for me to be honest with you, losing my mom, I wondered and I questioned, like, this guy that's still alive, that did so much and caused my mom so much grief and beat her and did all these things, he's still here and my mom is gone. And I used to wonder, like, why didn't he go and she still be here? And I just got to be honest with you, because that's just how I felt. Like, I'm like, the person that caused so much pain is still here, and the person that did so much suffering is gone. And I didn't understand that, y'all. Like, I ain't gonna lie. And I wondered, and that's why I said I hated him, because I don't hate him anymore. But I did at one point in my life. Like, and you know what I realized? Me hating him was turning me into him. Meaning, I went to prison and did a decade. I was out of my daughter's life for 10 whole years. Like, he was absent from my life. Even though I wasn't on drugs and I wasn't trying to be away from her, I still was away from her. Time is something that you can't get back. So I realized that as long as I hate him and I be bitter, who is it hurting? Me. I realized that bitterness hurts you more than the person that you're bitter towards, because they can be out doing their life, doing their thing, moving around and grooving and living a life. Meanwhile, you holding all this bitterness in your heart and anger, and you get sick, physically sick and ill and growing old before your time, and not able to have a good relationship because you got so much pent up inside of you that you tend to be snappy, and it's just so much. It's so much ill will that you got going on that it causes you to turn into the same person. And I realized that I was turning into him, and that's really what put me on a different track. Once I figured that out, I was like, I just couldn't continue to be that person. So that's when I started changing and really working on who I was as a person, because I didn't want to be like that for my kids. And me not having him in my life, I went through a lot. I went through a lot of unnecessary, I would say a lot of unnecessary things. I really looked at the life of a few of people that I knew I grew up with that had fathers that I really respected, and they went down a different path. And because they had someone there that really loved them, and I know my mom, she did all she could, but you know, when you're trying to provide and you beat down, you tend to give up. And I remember being good at sports. I was good in football, actually. Football. I was good in um, track, baseball, and gymnastics. And I gave up on everything, y'all, because I didn't have no motivation. I remember no one came to see me, and and I remember one time my mom telling me that she came and I didn't know she was there. I remember playing a game one day before I go on to chapter 3. I was playing the game, and man, I was hungry, y'all. I never forget. I almost made the touchdown. I was gone. I broke off, and y'all, I got weak. Tripped over my own shoe. Couldn't get past the deal. Like no lie, like. And I remember telling the coach, was like, "What's going on?" I sat to the side. I remember the coach. I never forget this. Sit to the side. I told him, "Just let me sit out, coach." And I remember when the game was over. We won the game, but I sat out because I was just. He could tell something was wrong. He's like, "Man, what's going on?" I said, "Man, coach, I'm hungry. I haven't ate nothing." And I remember him just looking at me. He was like, "Son, don't you ever do that. If you need something or you hungry, let me know. Let me know, and I'll make sure I get that for you." But it just hurt me now to think about it because that's why I gave up. I was a fast tailback, and I remember giving up on sports and athletics because I didn't have no support. And my daughter now, Amara, she's athletic. She's a cheerleader. She's very athletic, and I was into that. Like I was into the flips and like I literally did that, and I just kind of gave up on everything. Like so, it let me know how me not having that support and not having that strong figure in my life, I end up making a lot of messed up decisions at a young age. I end up going a direction that I wish I wouldn't have, but life is what it is. And that's why I say I hated him because I forgive him now. And even though we don't talk and communicate like we should, he'll call every blue moon and we'll hold a conversation, but we ain't like friends. We don't hang out on holidays. We don't get together. We don't do none of that. You know what I mean? And, anything might happen in the near future. But I'm just saying, as of now, it's not like that. But I had to forgive him and to move on because if I didn't, like literally, like I really think that I've been in the worst situation that I end up getting myself in over time anyway. So let's go to the next chapter 3. My mom and my Christmas gift, the boombox. So while my mom was gone and I was in Arkansas, she went back to Denver. I don't know if her and my dad was trying to work things out. Things was getting hectic, so she didn't want me around and witness what was going on. And I remember her sending me for Christmas. I was in Arkansas, and she sent me my first boom box. And I know everybody remember the boom boxes, from the beginning of hip hop when you see them on the corner with the radio and they was rapping with the radio and doing the free, and listen to the music, listen to the beats, walking down the street. You know what I mean? I had got one of them, man. Oh, y'all, I can't tell you how excited I was. That was like my introduction to hip hop, and it was in the early '80s because I was young. It was in the early '80s when I got this, and I remember like being glued to this thing, like listen to music, finding music on it, and I remember I remember playing this song that I got once I grew up, and I know some people remember this song um, when it said that what was that what was his name? Cool Mo D. That's what it was. I had a Cool Mo D song. I used to like 3 days later go see the doctor. I just loved it hip hop, man. I was a hip hop head, and I always tried to rap. And I used to listen to them and I make little words rhyme. And I remember being young and people telling me, "Man, you got a little something. Go on, do a little joke. Go on, let me hear what you got." And I used to mess around, but I remember my mom sending me that. And it was a real big change in my life because it introduced me to hip hop. It introduced me to music that I used. My mom wasn't around. My grandfather was older, so when I was with him, I listened to a lot of music. And my grandfather, he was also a barber, so he taught me my first trade. So I learned how to cut hair. I remember I learned how to cut hair by the time I was in the third, fourth, and I know for sure by the time I was in fifth and sixth grade, I was almost a professional. I used to have a little kit and used to go around and make a couple dollars cutting people's hair. Cutting some of the people's hair in the community, some kids. I was pretty good. My grandfather taught me. He taught me by cutting his hair, and he was already going bald. So I practice on his head, and after we get done, he's like, all right, now go on and shave it off, and I shave it off. And next time it grow out, he'll let me practice on it again, and that's how I practice. He'll just sit there and let me have fun. And I remember him allowing me to do that taught me my first skill. So my first skill I was introduced was using my hands. Using my hands being a barber, you know what I mean? And it was all due to the fact that my mom had to send me down to Arkansas to be with my grandfather. And that was, like I say, that was a time in my life where my grandfather was in a small town called Arkansas City. And I remember being down there. I always felt a little out of place down there, because the kids, I didn't really, I had a few associates friends that I talked to, but it was funny. The kids that was actually from there, it's like we didn't really get along a whole lot. The ones that was from there, it's kind of like we'll bump heads a little bit, And then there was a couple of them that, we was cool. I had a couple of them that we was cool, we was in the same grade. So, we was cool, but they were still, all of them, I'm going to say this, all of the guys that I knew in Arkansas City that was in my grade, all of their families was a little better off than mine, like the couple guys that I knew that I remember that I can throw out a couple names to, all of their families was doing a little better. So they was living, had a little bit better conditions. They was, had certain games, had certain clothing. They always looked nice, you know what I mean? So I wasn't as fortunate with them, but I used to do my best, always trying to look good. And the little few things I did have, I try to crease them up and keep it sharp and make it look good. And I remember being down there, and this time it's around, I'm a little older, so I'm probably in the 8th, 9th grade, 7th, 8th grade, or like 7th, 8th grade. And one of my guys that now, I didn't really know him from the get-go, but his dad lived there, and his mom stayed in Winchester, I believe. And he'll come down, and at one time he came down and stayed for the school period. And I remember me and him being kind of tight because he wasn't from there, and I kind of felt like I wasn't from there. I'm from Denver, you know what I mean? That's what I'm feeling. I'm from Denver, I'm not from this little place. I did more time up there, So we hung out a lot. And I remember we used to try to, crease our clothes and stay clean. And my guy, he had more, his family was a little well off too, so he had the nice clothes, I can't remember he had the name brand. At that time, it was probably we was wearing Tommy Hilfiger and other stuff like that, but he had the name brand clothing. And, I had a couple things, hand-me-downs, but, I try to keep everything clean and nice. And me and him used to try to stay clean together, you know what I mean? So I never forget us going and keeping ourselves together, and I remember, how that was growing up in that small town in Arkansas City. And right now, to this day, my guy's actually a director in Hollywood, I believe, around that area. He left and wrote a book, did some modeling and some acting. Well, not acting, but I think he did a little acting too. But I know he's a director. He really wanted to be a director, and that's what he's doing now. I actually seen that he was working on one of Master P's upcoming movies, if it's not already out. No, I don't think it's out yet, but it's coming out soon. Probably next year. Next year it's coming out. He's working on one of his movies or a couple of his movies, and he got a couple independent movies of his own. And it was just ironic because I seen him on Facebook when I had a lot of friends on Facebook at one time, and I seen his face. I'm like, man, this dude looks familiar. So I got to going through his photos, and I think he sent me a friend request, but we ended up being friends. And I seen him. I said, "Oh man, this was my guy. This was my guy that me and him used to go to school together. You know what I mean? And we was cool. You know what I mean at that time. But it was good to see that he had a different upbringing. And I remember his dad. Like I remember his dad in that town. I do. I remember his dad having a few kids down there, but all of them was well. You know, doing okay. His dad was always a go getter. I would say he always. I remember he always had some type of thing that they was doing. I remember they had some type of club, or his dad had some type of club at one time in a little town, or a little getaway, you know, for the hangout for the blacks. You know, it was always something. I remember his dad well, and I remember a few of his sisters. Actually, I think I even tried to talk to one of his sisters. I never did, but I think I tried to talk to a couple of them. You know, or one of them actually that was around my age group. And it was just ironic how time flies. But it shows me how my guy, he had a father in his life. And most definitely he had a mother, but the guidance. And for me to go through everything that I went through, and for me to see his lifestyle now, and he's making movies and directing and wrote a book and he's doing his thing, like, it just shows me how important it is to have a father behind having a passion, like you having a passion and a direction to go somewhere in life. It's kind of hard for a kid to really get there if he don't have nobody to push him and say you can do it, or I believe in you, you know. So I can just see our lives taking, it took two different paths. But I'm glad that my brother, you know what I'm saying, like I say, he's doing good. And you know, we don't really talk, but we follow one another on social media. And but I see him, he doing good. And it's just crazy how time flies, you know, how time flies, and how me coming down, you know, to Arkansas, being with my grandfather, getting the boom box, going to that school. I was able to meet him, and I was just able to meet some people. And but I was also introduced to racism there. You know what I mean? That's where I seen the racism. I remember my grandfather telling me not to talk um, to a white girl down there. I remember actually in Arkansas City, the first white girl that actually liked me, I was scared of, because my grandfather told me, man, something gonna happen to you. You know, people down there, and he was just being honest because what he seen, and it spooked me. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not believe in that, talking to a white woman. I remember she tried to talk to his friend. I'm like, nah, you know, I just kind of spooked me a little bit, and so we never really talked. I remember, you know, talking, hanging out at the school or something, talking to her, or seeing her in the street because she didn't stay too far from my house, and she'll be walking her little sister, I never forget, on the bike, and we'll talk out there in the road. But she was young, and you know, but I remember her to this day, a white lady from Arkansas City. So it's just kind of crazy how time flies, and how things work. But that's why I seen racism at being down there. So that's why that really meant a lot to me, because the things that I seen. And like I say, I know things would have been a lot better if I would have had the proper guidance. My grandfather did the best he could, but he was an older man. So he did, you know, provide for me good. He did teach me some good principles, how to pray. We went to church. But, you know, I still, you know, was bad, you know. And I remember being also down there. There was a couple guys that came down there that was family from down there, but they was from Chicago, and they was, you know, grew up in Chicago. So we was tight, and at first, you know, it was because we was just bad. They was bad, and they getting the stuff, and I was with them. I remember us stealing some mopeds when they had. I don't know, y'all remember the moped bikes where you had to pedal them to crank them up, and then, you know, they came out with that version first. Well, one of my partner friends that was from Chicago, he found where it was there. Was like, man, y'all want to go get him? So it was me, him, and his brother. We went and stole him, broad daylight. Walked them down like they was ours, and we hid them inside of this old shed, like a barn or something that was, you know, in Arkansas City. And the police ended up finding them. And I remember, you know, it was one of them little bit time where they'll come and get the stuff, and the people didn't press charge, and they went to our family like, hey, you need to get on these boys, and y'all need to stop doing this. And I remember the my grandfather talking to us, but me and them two guys, we got in a lot of trouble. You know, we stayed into something. You know what I mean? Because we kind of like, we connected. Both of us wasn't really from down there. It was really country and slow. Cause we was from the city. You know, me being in Denver, it was like I was used to seeing more. Now I'm down here. I'm like, man, it was just a different environment. And I also remember I want to talk about this because I had a situation happen to me, and this is before or around the time I met them. But I was down there during that time with my mom, and it was some more guys. They was from Chicago as well. It was three brothers, but one brother was down there for a while. I think was staying with the auntie, and the mom sent the other two brothers down there. Maybe the mom, I don't know if they mom passed or was on drugs or something, but they come from Chicago and come down into this little town. So it was like a culture shock to them too. And I remember one time, and I lied to you not, like I don't. I remember this because I never shared this story with anyone, but I want to share it with y'all because this took a pivot in my life. And everything that I'm talking about is things that actually made me, that really affected me and changed me in ways and had me look at life differently. So while I'm down there on this time, like I say, I wasn't a teenager. I was still, adolescent, but I was older. I go over to these guys' house one day, and I remember they auntie or something was gone, but I remember her being a black lady, but she wasn't a big lady. I remember her facial expressions kind of reminded me of a mean woman, but she wasn't mean, But I remember she always kept herself clean and she was always dressed nice. And I remember her look, but she wasn't mean, but she just had that look. You know, some of them black women just got that look like you don't fuck up. You know what I'm saying? So I remember going over there one day, and I don't think she was there, and I don't think the older brother wasn't there neither. It was the two youngest ones, and I went over there to go play with them, and we used to play outside and just mess around. I'm young, we just playing around. We didn't have no video games or nothing like that. We just play, do other random stuff, outside or whatever. Well, this one time I go over there and we inside. It was like, man, let's go in the house and play. So we in the house, and I remember both of them was a few years older than me. I was always hanging out with people that was a little older than me for some reason. It's like I was more attracted to them for some reason. Like I had more in common with them, and people of literally my age. We really just didn't hang out a lot. It was always a couple years older than me or whatever. Just what it was. So I was over there, and I don't remember how it happened or what exactly took place, but I remember me sitting on the couch watching TV, and one of the boys came up to me, like in my face, was like, man, like, hey, man, that's have you ever thought about doing this? And I turned around, I remember him saying that. Have you ever thought about doing this? And I turned around, he had his fucking pants down, like his dick was out. So I'm like, I pushed him. I'm young. I'm like, hey, man, what you doing? He was like, and him and his brothers was like, what about this? And I'm like, what the? It was like it was wild. Like it was almost. It made me feel like they was trying to assault me. They was trying to rape me. And I remember me pushing them off and fighting them off. Like, man, I ain't with that. Cussing them out. I ain't with that shit. And I was young. And I got out the house. And I remember getting out the house and I got out the door and I ran down to my grandfather's house. I was breathing hard and shit. I never told nobody though. But I was like, man, I can't believe, and I was cussing them out, but I fought them off. Never went over there no more. Never had that situation happen again. But it happened that one time. And I swear I didn't understand that, man, but it stayed in my mind. I'm like, I'm not on that. I'm not no punk. I'm not no person that's gonna let someone take advantage of me. You know what I'm saying? And I remember it put something in my heart that, I died before I let someone take advantage of me like that. Like literally, I was thinking like I would die before someone hurt me or take advantage of me. And I was young, like y'all, I wasn't even 13 years old. Like I was young when these two boys tried to take advantage of me. Like I'll never forget this shit. And I never shared it with no one. But I want to tell this story because I know my kids are even gonna watch this one day. And I want them to know that there's not a gay bone in my body. I don't knock nobody for what they do or what they choose to be. But your dad and me personally, I've never been a punk. I've never been someone that let someone take advantage of me. I never want to know nothing other than a woman. Never. You know what I'm saying? Never. And I'm willing to fight to the death of me if someone tried to approach me with anything other than that. Now, I have friends who are gay. I have cousins who are gay. I have cousins who are lesbians. Like, I don't care. What you do is what you do. I still love you. Just don't bring it to me. Don't bring that to my plate. And that happened while I was down there through this transition. And that really stuck out to me. And I wanted to share it because that put a fire in me that later ended up saving my life. Let's go to chapter 4. Chapter 4. Facing 10, 40 to life on 2 counts. Ricochet. Man. Oh, y'all. I cannot make this up. So, I end up going back to Denver. Got in some trouble in Arkansas. I was actually on the run. I had an aggravated robbery charge. I was on the run from it, and I probably could have got the charges dropped if I would have never came back. We didn't hurt nobody, but I robbed the store, and with a friend that was older than me, and I ended up going to Denver, and I went to Denver, back to Denver to, my dad had went back up there, and he had a lady that he was staying with, a white lady he was with, and I called myself going back to Denver. I'm a little older now, so now, it's still blue, I'm wearing blue. I remember, for those who remember the British Knights that came out, the BKs. At that time, I was on that, so I liked the shoes, and then, like I say, my hood, I grew up, was Crips, so I liked it, the BKs that had some that looked like the Cortez, like the Nikes, but they was BKs. So we busted because we from the hood. So I'm busting BKs and blue, and you ain't got to ask what I am. You like, man, where you from? But I was I was representing, I was blessed in to be a gangster. But I grew up around Crips, so my OG, like I say, is 9-0. So you might as well say my OG was 9-0, but when I was in Denver, my hood was 5 Deuce, but it was still Crips. So being up there in Denver, things, man, was different. You know what I mean? I was younger. The hustle was fast. Kofax was wide open, man. For those who know about Kofax, I'm a young, I'm 15 years old, 15, 16 years old at the time during this era. I'm on Kofax. And it was wide open, man. There was so much money being made up there, so many drugs, so many people was coming, visiting Denver at that time, I remember. And like I say, my 2 partners, man, I'm going to give them a shout out because I haven't seen these 2 guys since I left. And my guy name, nickname, we called him, one of them name was Fat Boy. We called him Fat Boy. And my other little partner name was Little T. We called him Little T. So Little T, but both of them was Crips, you know what I mean? 5 dudes, and we hung out together. They was like this here, and then they met me. They were like, man, cuz you should represent, man, woo woo. I'm like, man, but I'm from so and so. I'm still with you, but I can't switch it up. I can only be one thing, and that's forever. But I'm from here. I never changed my flag, and I never did. Like once I got initiated to be into growth and development, into Gangster Disciple, that's what I was. You know what I mean? But I hung out with nothing but Crips all the time because that was my hood. But when I was around gangsters, I let it be known, and we talked, and we had fellowship, and they're like, oh man, I thought you was a Crip. I said, nah, these are my homies, it's my hood. I grew up with them. You see what I'm saying? And my family, I let it be known that my mom's side of my family that came from Milwaukee was how I got introduced, and how I embraced the 6, and how I learned, and how I embraced that culture. But being in Denver, man, it was fast, man. It was wide open, man. Like we used to catch the bus, go downtown and sell drugs. It was almost like a job, man. It was crazy because I remember being with my baby's mother, my oldest daughter, mom, and she wasn't pregnant at the time. And I remember, telling her like literally like I was going to work. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to work, I'm gonna go hustle. And I leave in the morning, and I come back in the evening before it get dark during the week. And that's how I hustle. Like I had a real job. I go out there hustle. And I remember at nighttime, we didn't used to hustle at night. We'll kick it because the police and all the jackers, it was just so hot. you don't even want to be out there. You know what I mean? Because anything can happen. So at nighttime, we'll be doing things to have fun because we'll hustle through the day. You know what I mean? And we might hit a couple licks at night, but it was more, a couple buzz calls where I said on the pager because we had the pager jumping then. Hold up for a second. I had to stop here and there because I got this laptop on. So, it was more of them things where we hustled kind of like it was a job. It was, don't be out there at night because it was so much. I remember them having the ambulance used to be parked by the 7-Elevens in Denver. There's a lot of 7-Elevens. And they'll jump out. If you out there, they can jump out and strip search you right then if you had drugs on you. And, I remember it was some jump out boards. It was just a different culture then in the early 90s. Now, this is the early 90s. I'm 15, 16 years old. I'm in Denver, Colorado, Aurora, selling dope. You know what I mean? Down Colfax, up and down Colfax. At that time, I was living on Dallas Street in Aurora. So for those who are feeling with Colfax and Dallas, I live literally off of Colfax and Dallas. I could walk to Colfax to catch the bus to go downtown for where I lived at on Dallas Street and some duplexes. And I know they still there right now. You know what I'm saying? So being up there, man, I learned a lot and I hustled. Like I say, I got the hustle game from Arkansas, from my OGs, my Crip OGs, my cousins. And when I got to Denver, again, I was up on the hustle, and my partners, they was hustling, but they didn't even know. I was like, man, I said, yeah, I was raised, but my family, like I say, they was already up to it because a lot of Crips had migrated from California and had went to Kansas City, Missouri. And my family was living in Kansas City, Missouri, and that was coming back and forward to Arkansas. And they introduced the cripping from Kansas City. You see what I'm saying? So that's how it all tied together. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily think none of them went to California, but I know they was in Kansas City. And when Kansas City embraced it, the Crip culture, my family was there, and that's how. And it was early when they embraced it. So when they embraced it, that's when I got introduced to it. So that's kind of how it all happened. But I was hanging out with them two guys, Fat Boy and Little T, man, and them was two cool dudes, man. Like I say, we hung out a lot. And while I was up there, I met this girl, and that's why I said ricochet, because meeting this girl, all these things I'm talking about are people and things, situations that literally affected me. Meeting this girl named Ricochet, I want to tell you this story because it's just so ironic how me and a couple of homies was hustling one day, and I hear someone talking to me, but I didn't know they was talking to me. And I remember them saying something like, man, don't be acting stuck up or something. And I turned around, like, I see this girl. I'm like, who are you talking to? And she was like, you. I said, shit, I didn't know you was talking to me. And we got to talking and laughing. And then, she was a Native American and black, but she looked more Native American. And, she was mixed, or she was all Native American. No, she was Native American and Creole. Let me get that right. Native American and Creole. So, gorgeous girl at the time. I'm like, man, she was gorgeous, had long hair, petite, and, she fast talking, you know what I mean? She was from Nebraska at the time, and she had moved to Colorado. She's down there doing what we doing, hustling, trying to live off the land, So me and her end up being cool and end up hanging out and end up coming into a partnership, and we end up hustling and meeting one another. And that's how my time started. We ended up coming down to visit my mom for Thanksgiving, I believe. Right before Thanksgiving, I believe. It was a holiday, I believe. I can't remember if it was holiday or it was Thanksgiving or Halloween. It was during that time. And me and her was, like I say, hustling in the streets. We had a lot of stuff going on in Denver, but we want to come down and visit for a minute. And our goal was just come down and leave. Well, we come down and visit everybody, and I remember, I had a couple rings on my hand, And I had been in Denver hustling. I got this girl with me, and we come up there, we network. And I remember the people in my little town, they like, damn, look, Joe, what you doing? They could tell I'm eating, I'm hustling because I learned that. But now I got this girl that literally, she was the prettiest thing that I have ever seen at that time. And being down there, they had never seen a girl that was like that. She was native, she was down, she was street. They ain't never seen nothing like this. So she, I remember she blew their mind, but she was just cool. We was cool. And we ended up getting in the bind, losing some drugs, and we had to try to get out of there. And I ended up robbing a guy, and we robbed this guy that I knew, and we didn't hurt him. The intention was never to hurt the guy, because I knew the guy. I just knew the guy carried like a lot of money in his wallet, and I'm like, man, we messed up. We can just get his wallet and get out of here. That's what I was thinking. I'm young. You don't think wise when you're young. I'm 15, 16 years old. You don't think wise. I knocked on the man's door. He come to the door, asked him for something. I tried to grab his wallet. He tried to wrestle with me. We didn't fight him enough, but we got the wallet, kind of tied him up with some handkerchief, real quick, and got out the house to get his car and leave. And we ended up getting caught up. The car ended up having AP. They put out APB on the car, or whatever someone did. After we was gone, and I ended up getting caught in the car with her with gun, drugs, money, because we had the gun. We didn't put a gun on him, but we had a gun. Guns, money, drugs, and I ended up facing this time, and I already had an aggravated robbery. So here I am back in Arkansas, facing 10, 40 to life on 2 counts of aggravated robbery. Now at this time, my charges was as following: 2 counts of aggravated robbery, aggravated assault, terroristic act, residential burglary, theft of property, and possession of a firearm. Those was my charges that I was facing that time with. And while I'm facing this time, I'm in the county jail and I'm a juvenile. And the juvenile and the female units in Deramart, Arkansas, are right beside each other. So it's 4 units, like 4 cells. 2 people in each cell, or 1 in each cell. I think that's how they had it. And we did a lot of talking back and forth. So we was locked up together, and we was together, and we was locked up together until I got moved to another side. But while I was over there, we was trying to figure out our game plan. Like, I knew I was getting time already. And I remember being young and just being honest, and she had a child, and she never did ask me to, take the fall or take the rap. She didn't. I remember them coming down there, coming to get her out the cell, and she coming back. They told me if I testify against you, they'll drop all my charges and let me go out. And I told them they could take me back to the cell. And she did that. She would not tell again. She didn't tell on me. So I told her, well, we go to court. I'm going to write the judge. I already got some time. They can't do nothing but run this concurrent. I'm going to take the charge. I'm young. I'm not knowing. I'm saying, hey, I take the charge. You just keep it real with me. While I'm locked up, I didn't say, like, not be with nobody. I just make sure that I got the things I need money-wise on my books, that I'm okay, that my mom ain't got to worry about me. That's the type of agreement we was on. It wasn't like, you my girlfriend forever or whatever. It was just like, man, just make sure I'm good. So we ended up going to court. I ended up pleading guilty to the charge, but they still gave her a charge of accessory or something being, I don't know what her charge was, but it was, they gave her, whatever it was like 5 years probation. And I ended up getting 20 years, and the judge suspended 6 years of the 20, and I ended up with 14 years under 70%, which I had to do 9 years, 8 months, and I ended up doing 10 years on 14-year sentence. And my grandfather was there at the time too, because I want to say this, because I didn't know, I have always heard what a Mason was, and my uncle used to get drunk and used to talk about him being a Mason, growing up, but, I thought that was just talk. But my grandfather had this ring he used to wear all the time. And I remember during that time that judge was sending me, that my grandfather stood up and he had said the 20. And my grandfather stood up and said something. I don't remember what he said or what he did. But I remember he had a little small recess. We went back in, and my public offender said, the judge is going to give you a time cut. Just agree to this, and they're going to give you a time cut for this. And when I got before the judge, he said, your charges are bad. You was going the bad direction, son. And I was. He was like, but I don't want to see you throw your whole life away. I don't want to throw your life away. You're young. I think that you can learn something and come out a better man. I'll never forget this guy telling me this. He said, we're going to suspend time off of this. And I was, 16 at the time, or 17 at that time. And he was like, we're going to give you 14 years instead of that 20 years, and told me how much time I do approximately, and then he said it could be shorter for good time and all that, And I remember him saying that, I hope you learn something from this. And I want you to know that you got a family that love you. Your grandfather loved you. And he made a statement because my grandfather was in there with me. And I remember not knowing, like I say, what a Mason was, but, my grandfather influences and respect in the community helped me out a lot, and I think that helped me with getting that time, because I could have got snowed in. Like, I know people in other towns, and even in Little Rock, that had one of my charges. They had no less than 20 or 30. You know what I'm saying? Like, they was throwing a book at folks. Or they have one of my charges and have 10 years. And if they had 2, they get 20. Like, it wasn't no less. That's what they was doing. And so I was blessed all the way around. But it was because of my grandfather. And it was because of God having his hand on me. And like I say, ricochet, I ended up going to prison. Like all relationships, young, it didn't last. You know how it go. Once you get down there, you might get a couple letters, and then it fades off to the wayside. I no longer know you. So she fell off to the wayside, which didn't hurt me or nothing. A little bit. I was more disappointed that she didn't keep it real, and I thought we was friends, and I took that time, But she didn't keep it real like I thought she would. And I remember saying to myself, I said, you know what, when I ever get out, if I ever see her again, you know what I mean? I just want her to be able to see me and to know that she messed over a good person, because I would have been loyal to her. You know what I mean? Like, if she would have just took care of her business with taking care of me and making sure I was good, she could have been with anybody. But we would have been 100. Like, that was in my mind, you know what I mean, at that time, and I remember surviving it. I'm like, man, you know what? She was part of my survival. So I got to be a good man. I used her, you know what I'm saying? Because I put so much trust in her just being real, and she got me, you know what I mean? So I'm like, damn. So I remember using her as my fuel to be a better man, and hopefully that she's seen me somehow and witness what she messed up, or what could have been hers, or what was connected to her. You know what I mean? And, to this day, I think she followed me on social media on a site or two. On one of them, probably Facebook. But, I had talked to her since I've been out, and it wasn't no ill will. We just, life happens. She went through a lot. You know what I'm saying? And the crazy point about it, when I met her, she had already went through a lot. When I met her, she had already been raped a couple times. And, life in the streets are hard, man. And so, I knew that situations happens, and things happen to a lot in our life, drug addiction, all type of things. When you're in the streets, man, things happen, so I couldn't get mad, but I did use her as my fuel, and she did help me become the person I am, because I used her as like motivation. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you left me when I was down. I'ma shine. That's what I was thinking. And when you see me again, whoever gonna be with me, I'ma shine with them. They're gonna be proud to be with me. So that's what I used to think to myself. Like, yeah, she loved me when I was down, but when she see me, or whoever I'm with, or whoever woman I be with, gonna be happy and proud to have me with them. So just wanted to say that real quick. So let's go on to chapter number 5. Attempted murder in prison. Woo, boy. Can't lie to y'all. I have been down there. prison was a different situation, man. I went down there, like I say, when I made it through the gates at the time, I was 16 years old, you know, 16 going on 17 or 17. And that was a completely different environment. I didn't know what to expect. But I remember going down there, I ran across a few guys, and we both represented the same thing in the Donaldson unit. And I remember we formed a little clique up called the Arsenal. And there was a few of us, and we was like, hey, let's do or die. We get down there, they on some BS. Some of them dudes, we heard about the story. We was like, hey, we're going to ride or die together. You know what I'm saying? So we ended up making us a little Arsenal clique. And some of us stayed tight through the whole time, but some of us didn't. But a few of us stayed tight. One of my guys from West Memphis, and my other guys, two of my guys that was from Pine Bluff. You know what I mean? We stayed and communicated, but the one that's from West Memphis, we stayed the tightest the most, I would say, during the time. And then the other guy from Pine Bluff, we communicated, both of them actually, but it really wasn't real strong. Actually, I ended up getting out, and one of the guys ended up dating one of my cousins, and I found out that he was dating my cousin in McGee. And when me and him ended up chopping up, and he was like, yeah, man, I know Joe, man. Like, me and him was locked up. We did time together. So it was cool to see my guy out doing this thing, because we were literally behind the bars together. Like, we grew up in that cell, you know what I mean? And I remember being in prison, y'all. Like, I wasn't in prison in 90 days. And this guy came to me and said, hey, Joe, I never forget, one of my guys that I came through from Pine Bluff, I never forget, he overheard a conversation of some guys talking about me, saying how fine I was and how they wanted to turn this new dude out. You know, it was like, man, little dude fine with this long hair, because at that time my hair was long. And for those who don't know, I'm Black and Native American, and I'm more darker, but my grandmother was Cherokee, like literally. She's Cherokee. My great grandmother was Cherokee, like she was Cherokee. Then then my grandmother, and then my dad. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of Native in my blood, like a lot. And I wish I had my photos with me, or I'll show you a couple pictures of my grandparents, and it'll trip you out. You know what I mean? Of my grandmother, especially, you be like, wow, like it's unreal. But that's why my hair is like this. Like, somebody black hair just won't be. If you see my hair, it's curly, it's straight. Now it's thin, I cut it off now. So I just keep it shaved because it's a little thin, but I just keep it shaved off now. And I just grow my chin hair, but my hair was always long, like it was down here, real pretty hair. And dudes, in prison, some of the older guys, they looked at me like, oh man, there's some fresh meat. And I didn't know how big the gay culture was, or raping was, or man sleeping with men was in prison. Like, I didn't know. I knew about the fights and the violence, and that's what I heard about, from the stories from those who had went to prison that I knew, but they didn't ever tell me about the rapes that, I don't know if I just heard, or maybe I just missed out on that or something, but man, it was a lot of gay activity down there, like a lot of rapes, and it was a lot of what was going on in Arkansas. It was a lot of homeboys raping other homeboys. Like, it was bloods raping bloods, and Crips raping Crips. Like, it was some crazy stuff. Like, if you weak, then they'll say, well, we'll take them off and we'll keep them in, like, they'll turn their own homeboys out. Like, it was a different situation. I seen some stuff that really made me cringe up, and me growing up in growth and development, being a gangster disciple, it was death before dishonor. It was family first, you know what I'm saying? It was one love. And down there I noticed that it was all clicked off. It's from what part of, or it wasn't that you was a gangster too. It was like, well, what town of gangster you from? And well, this town will click up a little bit with this town, and they might still do some messed up stuff. And these gangsters over here was gay. They was like the booty bandit gangsters. They was into the raping, and these gangsters was into the politics and education. Like, it was crazy. It was like clicked up, and I grew up as we all won, but it wasn't like that. You know what I mean? Like, it was some gangsters that I had got into it with, who had tried to turn me out. Like, literally, who was talking about, I found out wanting to get on the bandwagon, like, man, if he ain't no real gangster, we gonna check him and see what type of lid he know, man, and see if he ready. Like, literally, it wasn't no aid and assist, like, oh, you lost, brother, let me, let's come in, you so and so, let's get in and see where you have your head straight. We're gonna make sure you straight, because that's what I believed in. But it wasn't like that. If you came there, you was something, and they felt you was weak, or you didn't say something right, they throwing you to the wolves. They trying to rape you, or if not, you got a lot of money, you're gonna be in somebody's box, and you're gonna be taking care of somebody, because either that, or they had that old saying, and this is what they said: you even gonna bleed on my shake or shit on my dick. That's what they said. That's what they saying down there, and that shit was real. You know what I'm saying? So I cannot exaggerate with you when I tell you how prison was. Like, I remember seeing the first guy roll down in a wheelchair because he was walking, and I'm like, what's wrong with this dude? He was barely walking. You see his pants all bloody and stuff, and oh man, and this guy came from the other side with the wheelchair. Say, son, pretty much put him in here, and they rolled him into the infirmary. He was trying to walk. Man, they raped this white guy. Like, and this was one of my first experience in prison. You know what I mean? Like, it was a bad situation, man. And I remember, I'm gonna have to tell you this, because I remember waking up one morning, and I literally thought a guy was having sex with one of the officers, because that goes on in there too. It was a female officer that was on our door. Well, I'm in my bunk, and I hear some moaning, and it literally sound like a woman. So I'm thinking, like, wow, this dude here got this officer, and it was late at night, and I didn't want to turn around because I didn't want to, be in their business. I'm like, damn. I'm sitting there, but I'm wide awake, and I'm hearing it, and it sounded like a woman, y'all. I'm not gonna lie to you. Finally, I couldn't sit there no longer. I had to piss too, so I get up, which is respectful. I get up, didn't never look that direction. Just got up, put my flip flops on, and walked. Notice it was a white boy. Oh my goodness! No, it was a black dude and a white boy, and they was having sex in the missionary position. For those who know what that is, they was having sex like it was a man and a woman, but it was I don't know, y'all. It was crazy. I'm 16 years old. I don't know what to think about this. You know what I'm saying? This is a whole new environment. I'm like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit fucked me up, y'all. I'm gonna have to be honest with you. And I was like, damn. So I remember, just, it was so much gay activity, so many fights, so much, man. Like, I can't even explain it. But when this guy from Pine Bluff came to me and told me about these guys talking about taking advantage of me because, I'm new to the area, and they felt like, well, he might go, And the guy, he remember telling one of his partners, he's like, man, I told him, little dude ain't going, man. I mean, that's what you just say. They call me Slice G in prison. They was like, man, Slice G ain't going, So I remember my guy telling me, and there was an OG there named Charlie Rock. And I went to Charlie Rock, and I told him I needed a pistol. We call it a pistol, a knife in prison. You know what I mean? It's a knife, but, we call it a pistol. Like, man, I need a pistol. And I remember the OG looking at me and said, Kinfolk, if I give you this pistol and you don't use it, there's consequences and violation behind it. I was like, okay, I'm going to use it. He said, all right. He gave it to me. I left, went to a bar of mine. There was another partner that came in with me. He from Texarkana, my guy Ike. What up? Shout out Ike, man. I hope Ike doing good, man. I haven't seen Ike in a long time, but me and him grew up down there together. And I remember me, him, and my guy from West Memphis. We was down there talking and smoking a joint, I believe. And they all had class. And I didn't have mine. I was like, man, I'm finna go do this dude. And I told him, this was my exact word. I said, man, I'm finna go kill this dude that's talking about raping me. You know what I mean? I said, man, before I let somebody touch me or do me like that, man, I kill somebody, bro. I'm not gonna allow nobody to do that. If he thinking about it, then he gonna have to come with it. And I remember my guys like, man, Joe, you know what I mean? Just do what you gotta do. You know what I mean? I understand however it goes, just do what you gotta do. But once you pull it out, you got to go on and go with it, And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And I remember them leaving out because they had to go to work. And I stayed in there, chill for a second because I had to wait on chow hall to call and wait till that certain barrier got down there. So I knew that the dude was down there. So I stayed in their barrier and waited. So once they popped their door, I was riding on the sign. I left out with their barrier and went to lunch. But I didn't belong in there, you know, I just left out. So when that time came, I walked down to the chow hall and I spotted the guy. So when I spotted him, we was just going through the metal detectors he was in. So I had to go in there, get my tray. I sit down. I forgot what they was having, but when you got it in drilling and rushing, you got something on your mind, you can't really eat. And I remember the guy sitting there looking at me, he eating, and I ain't really eating. And he said, damn, bro, you don't want that? I said, nah, man. He said, man, let me get it. He got it. I gave it to him. He ate it. I just took a little peek. He said, man, what's on your mind? I said, man, I got some business I got to take care of. So I see the dude leaving out the chow hall. So as he leave out, I grab my tray and go and leave out behind him. So we get in the middle of the hallway, and we're right in front of the chow hall. I walk up to him. I said, hey, man, I heard about you saying that you wanted to rape me, man. And he looked at me and smirked. What you talking about, youngster? Man, ain't nothing like that, man. Don't be listening to what them folks saying, what people be talking, man. People just be talking. But he's saying it the whole time with a smirk on his face. I know it's the truth because my guys that told me, you know, I honor their word. And I know it wasn't no BS because this guy was known, I heard, for doing things like that. So I made another little comment. I said, man, you know, you sure this is what I heard, man? This is what I'm hearing. If you want to, we can handle the situation that need to be, you know. Oh man, don't do that because we right in front of the thing, right? He don't know I got a knife. I'm just talking. He just see me getting a little, you know, worked up and talking to him. He like, oh man, youngster, this and this. Try to blow me off because he was a little older than me. He was grown. I wasn't. So I act like I was gonna walk off. Turned around. And I said, hey man, before I go, let me ask you something. He turned around. When he turned around, I had the knife in my hand, the pistol. And it was a shank made out of some metal that had some jagged edges on one side and it was kind of smooth on the other. And we had a boot strap wrapped around it, so it was wrapped around my wrist. So that way when I'm stabbing him, it'll never come out my hand. Like I couldn't lose it in him. I was always bringing it out. Even if I lose grip, I could pull it out because the strap was around my hand. And that's what I did, y'all. I remember just blacking out. And I just got the stick in them. You know what I'm saying? I just got the stick in them. And I remember, you know, all I'm thinking is like, I ain't no punk, man. Ain't nobody finna rape me. And it goes back to me telling you about these two young guys when I was, you know, under a teenager. You know, I wasn't even a teenager then, tried to rape me. You know what I'm saying? So this all I thought. And this grown dude, and I'm in prison now. I'm like, man, I died before I let someone do this. And I just wigged out, y'all. I remember, literally, I blacked out. The next thing I know, the police is everywhere and they screaming, let him go, and this, and they tried to spray me with the mace, and I put him in front of me like a shield, and they sprayed him, and I'm steady sticking him, and then literally, like, I wouldn't stop, and they was just like, get him, they just man, they just jumped on both of us, like, they see I wouldn't stop, I'm steady sticking him, they think I'm about to kill him, he like bleeding, so they run and jump on me like a football tackle, like man, it was probably like 20, I don't know how many officers were, it was a lot, they just ran like dumped and died on me, and get him down, get the gun, you know, get the knife out of his hand, this and this, and grab the dude, get him to the infirmary. They called the helicopter, you know, the helicopter come. I remember hearing the helicopter. They had to fly the guy on the helicopter because I messed him up. You know what I mean? When I was young and I'm mad, I'm screaming like, fuck him, man, this and this, you know, I'm screaming, you know what I'm saying, whatever, forget, you know, fuck the world pretty much, you know what I mean? I'm mad. And I remember guys looking on the windows in the child like, Slice G, get him Slice, don't go for that, you know what I mean? Because they knew it had to be something. So the crowd was, my other outsider was hype, and I remember, you know, it was just like a big scene, man. My blood was boiling. I got mace on me now, and I remember going down into the hole, y'all. Like I never forget. This is the first time I ever got sprayed with mace, and I got sprayed with a lot of mace. It wasn't just spray. They let a couple cans empty go on my ass, and I'm in this cell block and waiting for them before they spray me to get this stuff off of me. They put me in a spot where it's just burning, and I never forget, y'all. I'm in here, and I thought to myself at that instant. I said, Lord, if hell is this hot, I do not want to go. Those was my exact words. My skin felt like it was burning off of my face. Man, like y'all, I can't explain this. I'm mad. My blood's rolling. They found it. They get some water in there. I get some water on me. And they didn't really treat me bad, though, because I was young. So they knew something was going on. But I had, you know, I had a knife. I was assaulting another inmate. So they had to do the proper procedure or whatnot. So I'm in the hole. And I think this is probably like midweek, because you can still have visitation until you go to court, because that's a different court system, just like it is in the outside world. It's a court system in the inside. And if you catch a charge like I did, you also go to outside court too to get more time. So my mom came to visit me that Saturday, and I think this happened on maybe a Thursday or Wednesday, because I was in the hole a few days. And I remember my mom coming down. I was able to visit her, but I had to go out there with handcuffs on. But I could still sit, but we had to be like kind of off from everybody, you know. Excuse me. So my mom came out there, and we sitting out there talking. And my mom said, "Son, I heard about what happened. I just wanted to say, son, that I hate that happened, but I'm proud that you defended yourself. And I just want to let you know I had some of the best sleep. I had some of the best sleep, excuse me. I had some of the best sleep in my life that night when I found out, because of an officer that was working there that was actually from my hometown that went down there and told the word. And then, you know, some of the guys that I grew up with knew people that was down there because they had been to prison. They was older, you know, so they had keep their eyes on me and wanted to checking in, seeing how I'm doing and whatnot. So the guy couldn't wait to go down there. And I remember him, my mom, them telling me, was telling everybody, like, yeah, he took care of his business. Like, he stabbed him. He wasn't playing. You know what I mean? He wasn't going for that punk stuff. You know, they found out what happened and what was going on. And needless to say, we was out there. My mom was, you know, crying, but it was more tears of joy. And I remember her saying that, son, that night I slept so well, and God let me know, gave me a peace that let me know you're going to be okay. You're going to take care of yourself. Because she was worried about me. I'm young. You know, like I say, my hair is long. You know, I consider myself attractive. You know what I'm saying? So I was an attractive man that was in prison, that was young. But, you know, I'm from the streets too. So, you know, you got to have the heart. And it's all about the heart of survival. But, you know, being in there, it's all about the heart of survival. These guys was grown, but I'm a survivor, you know. And my mom said it just made her feel so good when she finally found out that, you know, I did that and I survived it, you know. And needless to say, I ended up going to court, and they dropped the charges on me. They dropped the charges because the guy had a couple rape charges against him already pending, that he had tried to rape some other guys, newer guys that came to prison. I don't know if they was white or black or not. And pretty much the judge felt like he got what was coming to him. He didn't say that verbatim, but he pretty much said that. You know what I'm saying? So he dropped my charges, and all I had was the prison charges, which was to go to the hole for so long and lose my class for so long. Like, he got certain procedures, but I was under 70% law, so I couldn't lose no good time. I can only just go to the hole. So that's the only good thing about that 70% law, was I didn't gain any good time, so I didn't receive none, so I couldn't lose any. So whatever my deal was, that's what it was. Hold up for a sec. I don't know why this act like this sometimes, but there we go. Didn't want to charge. Sorry about that. So, needless to say, I got those charges dropped because of the guy had a couple charges. So I ended up beating the attempted murder charge in prison, which I was facing some more time, and I was willing to accept that because I didn't go there no punk, and I wasn't gonna leave no punk. And it's, you know, that's just the truth about that. So let's go to the next chapter. Chapter 6. OG Charlie Rock. Gotta talk about Charlie Rock for a second. OG Charlie Rock. He's a black African American male that's actually from Little Rock, Arkansas. He fell out of Little Rock, Arkansas. I don't know if he's actually original from Little Rock, Arkansas, but he fell out of Little Rock, Arkansas. That's where he charges it. I think he got some murder charges, but he got a life sentence. And he wore glasses. Very, very sharp black man. Very, very, very smart, keen guy. And he embraced a lot of the gangsters coming in from prison, the young ones. He was always the one giving you the wisdom. What's up, folks? Let me give you something, man. Get your education. Like, he helped me, you know, find my direction and get my GED in reading. Like, because I had to learn how to read. You know, I could read a little bit, but I had to do everything over. So he motivated me to do certain things, and honestly, he had his flaws, but it's like those that was wanted to get turned out, or he had a deal where I don't know how exactly how it goes, but he had a couple youngsters that he slept with, that he was sleeping with, and I remember one for sure. And but the dude, he was a little gangster, but I don't know what happened. I don't know if the little man was like that or he talked him into being his boy. So he had like some people had ill will against Charlie because he's like, man, Charlie messed with them boys though, and then he didn't, and then he did believe because I remember him talking about that. The chairman don't believe that because we got these life sentences or we got life in prison, we still can indulge in homosexual activity. So I remember him literally saying something about that, but um, he was making more of he was more leaning on to the fact that I'm never getting home no more. I'm never going home. And, I made some, decisions, and, he was pretty much at peace with his situation. So I respected the guy a lot, but like I say, the guy, some people had ill will because he did sleep with homosexuals, but he never attempted to sleep with me, or some of the other little young homies that I grew up with. Shout out to Roro. My guy Roro got a life sentence, and I want to say Roro. I want to talk about Roro with this because me and him grew up under Charlie Rock. You know what I mean? Like really giving us some wisdom, some game, and he had some other youngsters, but both of us was young that he liked. He was like his sons, you know what I mean? And little Roro was younger than me. Roro got locked up about 14 years old, I believe. He was 14 or 13, 14, 14, 13. He was younger than me when he got locked up. And he was locked up on a murder charge out of West Helena, which is actually Helena, West Helena, which is actually where my grandfather is from. You know, my grandfather is a Brown that is from Helena, from that era, but I never visit the area, so I don't know my family from my grandfather's side that actually lived there. But my little partner Roro was there, and he was growth and development too. He's a gangster too. There's a lot of gangster disciples in Helena, and at that time he was one of the youngest on the charges that got these murder charges. And the little man didn't do nothing. He was just with a man, and he got a messed up situation. I remember him telling me a story, and we were sitting down. And what affected me with little Roro the most is, look, him folk never had a chance to break his virginity. He was just a little boy that was bad, want to hang out with the guys on the bikes. He wasn't even having sex yet. He just wanted to hang out with the homies. You see the little guy, they ain't on the women thing yet. He was still, you see a girl, yeah, she fine, cute or whatever, but he ain't even had sex yet. I remember him looking at him with tears in his eyes, like, man, kid folk, I ain't even had sex yet. I got life sentence. And he was just with these guys. They gave this little man a life sentence, man. And I remember the two other guys that actually was involved. I don't know if they two did it or it was just one of them that did it and they just gave all of them charges. But I really hope, I heard that he was about to get that time back, that he was about to get out. So I really hope little Roro get out. I really hope he get that time back, man. But dude been down there a long time. Like, he done put in a dub now, I know, man. Oh, man. So if he's 14 and he been down there 20 years, he's 34 years old. 34, 35, 36 years old, man. Wow. Whew. So it's a lot of homies down there, man, that's never coming home, man. I know a lot of good guys, I know a lot of good guys. Shout out to Big Mike that's down there from Hot Springs, another gangster, that I met that ended up getting a lot of time for a killing. I know a lot of guys that went down there for killings. I know a lot of guys that went down there for drugs. Shout out to my guy Lil Pooh from Little Rock, you know what I'm saying, from 23rd Street. Lil Ooh, you know what I mean? He went down there on a murder charge. And me and him, we grew up in prison together, you know what I mean? So we was real tight. And like I say, I grew up with Crip. So me and him was tight anyway, you know what I mean? Because my flag was blue and my OG is Crip, it was 90. And his hood is 23rd and Wolf, you know what I mean? So I grew, so we hung out like this. I remember, actually, I got a tattoo under my eye. And on my arm here that say boss. And I remember he ended up getting his first tattoos. We both ended up getting our first tattoos together. So his name was Lil Oo, but he's dead now from Little Rock. So rest in love to Lil Oo. Um, it was a good partners, man, that I met down there that I did a lot of time with that I respect, like Scrappy, my partner from Fort Smith. He used to braid my hair all the time, you know what I mean? And me and him was tight because my mom used to come visit both of us, and because he didn't have no family. So, me and him was so tight. I'm like, man, mom, get on Scrappy visitation list, and when you come down here, check him out too. Or bring somebody else with you and have you check out him and my sister check out me or whatever. That's the type of things that we did, to try to keep our spirits up and high. But that was my guy, like, man, like that was my guy. Like we done went through, I done seen him fight and put some hands on some folks, and and I like we was like this, man. And he ended up changing his name. You know what I mean? He ended up changing his name. I don't know if he's with the Nation of Islam or just a Muslim. Me personally, I believe in God. I don't choose titles. I'm not a Christian. I'm not necessarily a Muslim, but I do believe in God. I don't hold titles. I'm just a child of God. So I learned a lot from all aspects, from all different religions while I was down there, and I decided to believe that the Bible is real. The Bible has been tampered with. I do believe that it's our history book. I believe that it's our instruction. So I know that things been tampered in it. So you have to read and do research. But I do believe in God. I do believe in the sacrifice that His Son made. I don't necessarily believe in the name of Jesus, though. You know what I mean? Like I don't believe in using that name, but I don't knock nobody to do what they do. But just to give you some information about me personally, I don't embrace titles. I just say I'm a child of God, and I try to walk with the spiritual principles because spiritual principles are universal. And so I believe in spiritual principles, treating people right, believe in one creator, one God over all that created all. And I believe that we all are brothers and sisters. So that's just my personal take on that. But I got a lot of brothers that's down there that's doing time right now with life sentences who's never coming home, you know, who I ran across down there that really molded me, and Charlie Rock was one of them. So that's why I really wanted to say that because that older gentleman really motivated me and guided me to become a better uh, gentleman scholar, is what I would say. So let's go to the next chapter. God lives in a cell, chapter 7. I want to say God lives in a cell because that's where I found God at, in a cell. And I was in there during that time when I stabbed that guy. I had to be in the cell, and I was in the cell at one time by myself, one man cell for at least 60 days alone at one time. And doing that a long time, I heard other people will talk through the gates of bars or whatever, but I was alone. And during that time, man, I really got a chance to find out who I was. Like, I went through a lot of ill will thoughts and wondering why things was what it was and why my life had to be what it is. Why am I going through what I'm going through? God, why? You know what I'm saying? What type of purpose do you have? Why did things have to be so bad? Why didn't I have a father like everybody else? Why can I have some guidance? I didn't want this life. You know what I mean? Like being in that cell, like it just make you put everything in retrospect and make you look at things and twice, three times, four times. It's like, see, like, why is things the way they are in your life? And it was very humbling for me to be there and to really find God because I would just had to talk to him. And to me, I think it's a personal relationship because I literally just talked to God and I was like, God, they say that it's wrong if I call you this name. It say I got to say this name. He said, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to believe, but I believe in you. And I know that you walking with me. I know I couldn't have made it this far alone, so show me that you with me, hold my hand, guide me, order my steps, show me what I need to do. Get me in the right situations, man. Like all I was just praying, I was just desperately praying for God to hear me. And he heard me in my personal opinion. And that's why I said because he came and lived with me. Like I feel like God will come wherever you at. Whatever situation you got going on, in the slums, in the ghetto, in the cell, under the bridge, in a messed up, wherever you at, God will come and live with you in that location, and can make you whole and give you the strength to pick yourself up and go on and continue with your life. But you literally have to be willing to open up, to allow him to use you, to open up your heart, and to just really be naked and not ashamed. You know who you are. Just put the truth out there. If you ain't talking to nobody, you can just talk to him. And that's what I did. Like, Lord, you know me. You see my situation. And then at that time, I was also praying for the gentleman too, because I had stabbed him. I told he was about to die. Like I said, I had attempted murder charge. I didn't want him to die, but I wanted him to hurt from trying to hurt me. And I was like, man, Lord, I really don't want him to die. You know what I'm saying? But even though I had killing him in my mind when I was doing it, because that's what you think when you in that zone. But I'm thinking, like, I don't want him to die. I just want him to hurt him. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, Lord, be with him. Don't let him die. I don't want to be here for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just here in this time. You know what I mean? It's just like, it was a whole lot of my chest. But needless to say, God heard me. Those charges got dropped. I didn't know about that. I ended up just doing the time in the hole. I gained a lot of respect. People respected me because I didn't go. I wasn't no bully. I just wasn't no one. I wasn't no pushover. And so people respected that. Oh man, dude, real man. And then I ended up gaining more respect in prison, and my time ended up flowing a lot more, because once you live it and you do it, you don't necessarily have to do it all the time. You got to do it one time, and it'll live to be remembered if you do it right. And so that's the same thing it was in there. Like, when I made that example in front of everybody, I didn't have to do that again. I only stabbed one person in prison doing that 10 years. But I made an example in front of everybody. No matter what unit I went at, they remember that dude that did that stabbing in that right in front of that chow hall, or that guy that tried to take advantage of him, and he made a mean example, and the helicopter had to come and get him. They remember that. Now, afterwards, I got some fights. I remember one time I got in a fight in the shower, butt naked. When we go to the shower, we always click up. So it's 5 stalls to the shower. So if you got 10 homies, y'all gonna take 2 stalls, and all of y'all gonna be around the stall together. So we was the homies together. I'm bathing, and I get ready to get out. And as I walk out to go grab something from my deal and to get back in the shower. And one of my partners say, "Hey man, dude, looking at you, man." And I turn around, he walking butt naked with like a little skull cap on, around the corner. You know what I'm saying? So he in the shower while we over here, he looking at me jacking off. That's what my guy said. I'm like, what? So instantly, I'm butt naked, y'all. I hit the corner. What's up, man? Oh man, I just got the firing off. We just got the fighting right there, because you can't let nobody disrespect you like that. We can't talk about no stuff like that. So instantly, we fighting right now. We in the shower, butt naked, y'all, butt naked. My homeboys, they get out the shower. His homeboys run down there, and I remember my homeboy was like, "Y'all better not touch him, nigga. We gonna tear this motherfucker up." And me and dude fighting, and we get to fighting. After we done, his partner seen it. Nobody else jumping in. That's all. That's on them. We get up, dude steady trying to say, "Nah, I think, at the time, my name was Slice G. Nah, Slice, man, I wasn't on that, man. I wasn't trying to jack off on you, but I know better. I ain't got no understanding." I get out the shower. I got my boxes on now, my towel. There's a sergeant in the hallway. We get out. He steady behind me talking. We didn't follow. You can see a little blood on the sweat. "Man, this little dude, he all one, man." And the sergeant like, "Man, what's going on?" And, I'm trying to talk to him. I'm like, "Man, this dude trying to jack off on me, sergeant, while I'm in the shower, man. You know what I'm saying? This bitch ass dude, you know what I'm saying?" And then we get, get louder. This is how we talking. And the sergeant like, "What, this and this?" And dude just looked at me. When you get, me personally, when I'm in my feelings and you try to lie in my face and I know the truth, I just get even madder. So when dude was like, "No, I didn't," I just fired off. Bow! Hit him dead in his mouth. Hit him twice. Bam, bam, right in front of the sergeant. We fighting right there. The sergeant break us up. "Hey, y'all," but it's early in the morning. We at the shower. They used to do the showers like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. You know what I'm saying? So ain't nobody out there. The main people of the prison ain't there yet. The politics, you know what I mean? So the sergeant broke us up. Was like, "Hey, man, y'all gonna cut this shit out? Is it done? Is it over?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's over." I was like, "All right, if I hear about this shit, I'm coming to lock both of y'all up." So it was so early in the morning, he let me go my way. It just so happened the sergeant was from my area, so he knew, my family. You know what I mean? He knew I'm just taking out for myself. So word got to one of my cousins that was in the prison with me at the time, that was from El Dorado, Wade. He went down there and told Wade, "Man, your cousin down the old one," because they knew I already went on the stabbing. Now I'm down there fighting. This was a little while after I got out the hole, y'all. And I'm fighting. This after I do the stabbing, I get out the hole. I went out the hole 30 days. I'm fighting in the shower, butt naked. You know what I'm saying? There was a blood guy from Little Rock. I had to fight. And so after me fighting him in the shower and slapping him in the deal, we made our words. He went down and talked to my cousin Wade, saying I was on one. Oh man, Slice on one, man, he took it wrong. They come down there and talk to me. I'm already getting strapped up. I'm ready to go to the hole again, because you know I'm thinking now, like I gotta put an example. Like that was all in my mind. Oh, here it go. I gotta make another example. Well, just so happened they didn't want no drama because they had already seen what I'd already done. You see what I'm saying? So he talked to dude and he came to me, hey man, don't do that, man. Dude said he gonna squash it. They gonna leave it where it's at, man. Y'all fault. That's what it is. The OGs of the Bloods that's from Little Rock, they was like, nah, we gonna leave it where it was. If he gonna leave it, because that was one-on-one. We don't want no, cause we don't want no riots, nothing like that. Cause I would have had some more gangsters that would have rolled with me, like they fuck with me now. So they like, nah, Slice got something going. We gonna see what's up. So they didn't want no war. We ended up squashing that. Me and dude didn't talk, but we didn't talk. You know what I mean? One past him, he seen me, I seen him, and one of his friends, his partner, that they was from the same projects. Me and him ended up being cool. So shout out to Bay Ray, man. What up, Bay Ray? Gotta say that, man. It's from my guy from Bay Ray, man, from Little Rock. So he was for a kind of hustler, but the guy that he was cool with his homeboy, he was a blood though. But Bay Ray was for a kind of hustler, and me and him ended up getting tight. Like I said, we was from different hoods. And that's another thing that I want to talk about, because in prison in Arkansas, like when I grew up, it wasn't about where you was from, are you real? And the real hung with the real. So when I on my way getting out, shoot, it was a couple Bloods, a couple Crips, a couple dudes that were just hustlers, a couple gangsters, and that's what our clique. And everybody respect one another. And if you mess with anybody, everybody will go on one. And everybody was a man and had a hustle and had something going. So, you know, it was a different vibe. So, you know, it taught me that it wasn't about, you know, you grew up and you think, oh, it's about cutting it about that. It's about being man. So when I left out, I was cool with everybody. I'm still cool with some cats that run stuff in the Blood side from 21st and Oak and East End and Little Rock, to the Crips on 19th and 21st, to being over here in North Little Rock on Shorty Garden and Silver City. You know, I know people all over, you know, from Little Rock area anyway. You know what I mean? So I was locked up with these guys, and we sat on the same table. You know what I mean? We was like, yeah, we cool. No matter where you from, are you real? And that's one thing I learned from prison. It wasn't too much necessarily about where you was from at one point. After that season, when it was like, are you real though? And so that's why I wanted to share that story, because so much happened in that time frame. Chapter number 8. So wanted to talk to you for a second about my introduction in welding. So my welding introduction was kind of ironic, because my mom came down to visitation. I'll never forget. It was after I had got out of prison from the got out of the hole from the stabbing, and that stuff had passed. And you know, I remember her coming down. She was like, "So what are you gonna do when you get out? Like when you finally get out of prison?" I was like, "Well, Mom, I'm gonna get my GED, because I know I had to do that." She's like, "Well, you know," and they had a law stipulation in Arkansas that at that time I had to get my GED to get out of prison, unless it was showed that I wasn't able to get one mentally. So I was like, well, I'm gonna get my GED. And she was like, well, what about welding? She was like, I was watching some TV, you know, and they got this Tulsa welding school. They've been training these guys to weld, and they got another school they can do underwater welding and all this stuff. And she was telling me about the money they was making and traveling. And I was like, She was like, I think that's something you probably want to do, you know what I mean? And I remember, you know, thinking about like, man, welding. And she was like, well, I know you used to making money. So I'm knowing you ain't gonna get out and get a regular job, because you ain't gonna make no money. You grew up hustling. So once you grew up and you used to get money, used to fast money, making a little bit of money, you gonna send you back to what you was doing. Because you like, man, I'm not gonna starve like this if I know I can make a couple thousand doing this. You know what I'm saying? So she knew I had to have something. So that's why she wanted me to have a career, not a job, but to have something that I could use. And I remember her telling me, you know what? Later you can start a business. You can even teach people and make money. And I remember her telling me this, and my mama telling me this. I'm 17 years old. And I was like, I'm okay. I'm like, well, send me some material when you get home. And I remember at that time, you know, we didn't have Google. Google wasn't out at that time. I think Google come out in 97. This was 96. Well, Google probably was just now coming out at that time. This was like maybe 97, 98. Yeah. So Google was probably just out, but she wasn't familiar. So she went to the library and downloaded some copies, probably like I don't know. I remember it was one envelope with a couple stamps. So she probably sent me 6 to 8, 10 pieces of paper and showed photos and different welding positions and welding styles and what they do and how much they make and when welding started. Just a little information, to get my mind burning to be one. So when that time came, I was in prison. I went to Votech and I did 14 months in combination of welding to become a certified welder. So just so happened when I went in, the teacher that was there, I remember before I became a welder, they was trying to convince me to do something else. They was like, man, a couple of officers, they're like, hey, I know you want to go on welding, but I heard this teacher is racist, man. You sure you want to get in there? You might not even learn nothing. I'm like, nah, I got to be a welder. I remember it was another black guy that was with me, like, man, forget it, I'm going with you. So me and him agreed to, we're going to learn everything. Forget it. If he don't teach us, me and you going to read the book and we're going to teach ourselves in that booth. And that's what we did. But the guy, he wasn't racist. He just was from a town in Arkansas that he didn't go to school with nobody black. Like, he didn't meet nobody black till he was grown. So he just didn't want around nobody. I remember he even said, I ain't racist. He said, I remember the guy telling me, he said, Joe, I believe that there's pieces of shit people in every race. You know what I'm saying? I remember him saying it just like he was a tobacco spitter. You know what I mean? He kept his hands in his pocket. You know what I mean? He wore those type of boots, those boots with the little leather, the bib at the top of them. The little bibs. I don't know what they call them, man. The little funny little deals at the front. But I remember his boots, his whole setup reminds me, because he was a pipe welder. That's what he retired as a master pipe welder, and so he had the pipe welder setup. So if you see the guys with the way they dress with the pipe welder and the bit, that was him. You know what I'm saying? That was him from Arkansas. But anyway, I remember getting into that class, and after getting into it, that he came in the booth one day, and he told me to stop welding. And he came in, he closed the little curtain. He said, "Joe, I want to ask you something." I said, "What's up?" He talked kind of silent. He said, "You sure you ain't never did this before?" And I was like, "No, sir." I said, "But I really want to learn." He was like, "Man, you too good not to," because I'm catching on. So he thought I'm just trying to get some paper. I already knew it. I was like, "Nah, I just really got the passion." And it moved him so much. He said, "I tell you what, if you finish this course before time, I'm going to teach you how to weld pipe." I said, "All right." He said, "I'm going to teach you how to weld pipe, and I'm going to teach you how to bevel pipe." He said, "Because if you become a master with that stick and that wire, you would never be without a job." And I remember me finishing the course. It was a 14 months course. I finished the course in like 6 to 9 months, and I had plenty of time to learn everything else. So I learned pipe welding, fitting, beveling, and also he used me as his clerk to go around and help the people that was in the class that was going a little slower. But I remember me and that other black guy who was actually from Cleveland, Jamel Jackson. Shout out to Jamel, because me and him did a lot of growing together, and he got me into the books writing because he was writing books. And this guy, I don't know if he released any of his books, but this guy was writing some cool books. I remember he had one that I never forget. It was called The Black Beauty and the Slab Riders. And I wonder, is it released or did he ever did it? So if he ever run across him and he hear this, man, shout out to Jamel. He was from Cleveland, and he caught a murder charge down there in Arkansas, in Little Rock, by the way, and got into it with some guys and let some rounds go. And he, me and him did a lot of time together. Cool guy, man, kind of tall guy, bald head, was a cool guy. He wasn't in no gang, he was just a real dude. He just didn't play that, he wasn't no game, just a hustler, you know what I mean? But you cross him wrong, you're gonna have to come, you gotta come with it. So he was just a cool guy. But I remember just doing that. It just opened my mind up to the fact that anything is possible. So I utilized the welding there, and it was due to me going down there doing the Bill Clinton bill prison act, doing the Joe Biden and that little act they came up with to lock all the black people up. I was affected in that act, and that's why I ended up going to prison from 16 to 26 years old, which actually I was told that I should have went to the juvenile home and not prison for those charges, because they wasn't violent. Even though they was violent, I had a shooting charge, but didn't nobody get shot. Uh, didn't nobody get beat up in the robbery. You know what I mean? It was robbery, but it wasn't like violent. It was just a violent charge, but it wasn't violent. You know what I'm saying? It was just a guy that was hustling, trying to, I was just young and dumb, man. I was just trying to get some money, and we make a lot of mistakes when we don't know no better. So that's why I wanted to say that it meant a lot to me to get introduced to welding in prison, in a cell. So it don't matter where you learn it at. And as you see, I first got the seed planted. So sometimes it's just going to be the seed to be planted, and then it's up to you to water it and just take it to that next level. Chapter 9. What my papa taught me. So I wanted to say that, man, because my papa taught me a lot. And my papa taught me how to pray. He taught me how to pray, the meaning behind prayer. He taught me how to take care of family and use my hands and work ethics. Because my dad used to do all type of stuff, but he used to always save my dad, always be there. And one thing that he taught me that I never forget was to keep God first. He had his flaws with women, and he liked it women. I remember one time being young, I was in the front room playing TV. Not playing TV, watching TV, and this lady walked in, and they got to argue, and she slapped my grandfather like hard. Pow! I'd never forget. I'm sitting on the couch. I looked at him. He didn't get off the couch or nothing. He didn't raise his voice. He just looked at her. She said something else and turned around and left. Later, I found out it was a lady that he was courting, so whatever they had going on. But my grandfather was something else, man. He was a man who went to World War II, who never taught me to go. I remember him telling me to be independent, to start a business, because he was independent in that area. He cut hair. He was like one of the black people that had a vehicle, so he drove people around and did like a taxi type of thing, and that's was his thing. So he always taught me independence, and I always remember that from my grandfather. And he showed me a lot of love. So I learned to spend time with your kids or with your grandkids. Like, 'cause my grandfather really taught me, like, he showed me how to drive. He used to put me in his lap. That's how I learned how to drive. He literally put me in his lap, had me do the steering wheel till I got better and better till he allowed me to drive. Like, it was just crazy how the stuff that he taught me. But he always taught me to fear God, to fear God, to fear God, to pray, to ask for forgiveness. He used to always say to ask for forgiveness, because we're gonna mess up, in life. In life, you're going to mess up and you're going to have mistakes that you don't even know you're doing wrong. You don't even know that it is wrong. You're just living. You're just living, just going by the motions. And then, you learn as you go, But my grandfather, I just wanted to say that he showed me some things that really stuck with me, even though he stopped in that car, like I told you in that one other chapter, where he was like, grandson, you only got 2 girls? You got to do better than that, grandson. You got to do better than that. Y'all, I cannot make this up that my granddaddy literally stopped the car. I thought we ran over something, hit something, to tell me I need to have more than one girl or 2 girlfriends. Now, as an adolescent, that messes you up for your grandfather to tell you need to be what they call a whoremonger. So needless to say, I love the God and women. Chapter 10. After 10 years in prison, 2006. 2006, March the 8th, I was released from prison. At that time, I was married. I actually met an officer while I was in prison who, once we met, she ended up quitting. And she stayed in communication with me through the time we met. And we actually met in the year of 99. And she rolled it out with me to the year of 2006 when I got out. Literally, we had a couple silent moments, not a 4 years though, but moments, because she was dating and free, but we stayed pen pals. We was pen pals. So she was really a good friend of mine. We're not together today. It's just my daughter's mom, my marriage mom, but I still love her though. I love her like family, not like like want to be with her in a relationship, but I love her like family because she was my pen pal friend that I met in prison, and then I met her, on a personal note once I got a chance to go home on a furlough, and like I say, we got married in there, and it was just. I learned so much from that situation, man. And like I said, you get out, you have all these preconceived notions that life is going to go a certain way. You're going to put this in, just going to do this, you're going to do that, and things just don't, go that route, sometimes. But one thing I can say, when I got released, I got my first job, and my first welding job, I was making $8 an hour. I just want to say that, $8 an hour. Welding, making $8 an hour in this little town in Newport. Now it couldn't have been 2 weeks later, maybe 3. I went from 8 to 10, a big jump. Once they seen my skills, the guy was like, "We don't pay him, we gonna lose him. Once he find out what's going on, you got to give him. He gonna be." So they end up feeling bad for how they was taking advantage of me. But I just got out of prison. I'm happy just to get a job again. So it was a cool job, man. I worked at TaylorMade, and I was doing TIG and spool gun welding, aluminum and stainless steel. So it was all aluminum and stainless steel welding, and it was fun. It was cool company, man. I got a chance to. They used to give us tickets to go to the NBA game. I got a chance to go to my first NBA game because one of the owners actually, I think he's had some investments in the Memphis Grizzlies. So he'll get tickets, and we'll go, and a couple of us will go down and see the game. And we always had some good tickets. We had some box office tickets, you know what I mean? Like some cool stuff, So I got a chance to experience some cool things, and also getting out, I got a chance to drive for the first time. I got to say this because I drove from Newport to McGee, Arkansas after I got out of prison. Because as soon as I got out, I got my license. I got out on a Friday, and literally, I think I took my permit test either that day or the next following week. I took it, but I know I had it soon. And then I got my driver license right after then. And then on my first drive, I remember driving along, and my wife at the time, she was like, "You sure you don't want me to go?" And I'm like, "Nah, I need to do this by myself." And y'all, I ain't gonna lie, I was scared to death to jump in that car by myself. I did all that time, but it was cool. It was like the car, it was like a piece of freedom that was just, I don't know. It was like a 5-hour drive, but it was neat. I went to go visit my mom, and it was just a cool thing, man. I remember my mom just feeling so good that I was just free, and I had a different outlook at life, but I was still green, by the way, because there's so much stuff I haven't even went through yet. But I remember being so happy, being in a little town in Newport, being in a little duplex with my wife and off of Deal Street. And I remember just being happy, man. Just being happy that I had someone. It was a little bitty town and country girl, we were just cool, man. We was cool. It was crazy. But we used to sit back and watch TV and chop it up. It was just a whole different environment. Like I didn't know how to live, and then she had a son. So when I get out, I'm a stepfather off the top, but I was good to him, and we was cool. But I had to work with him, work on him in certain things with school. And I was staying on him, but I wasn't on him bad though. I just corrected when she say he did something wrong and that need to be corrected. Like, I remember one time my first correction he had, she got called to the school, and he wasn't bringing none of his homework home. He was putting it all in his desk. And the teacher found all his work and that he wasn't bringing in, and told his mom, and she brought it home, and I ended up having to spank him. But I didn't do nothing but put him literally over my shoulder, use my hand, over my knee, and use my hand and spanked him on his butt a couple times, and told him, don't do that, and explained it to him. But the crazy thing though, the being out and enjoying that freedom, man, I can't even explain to y'all how I felt, man, to get out after 10 years. Like, I was drug free, first getting out, like literally I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, what I mean? It was all about hustling, spending time with my wife and the kids. That was it. Like, that was it. I consumed myself with them. And music, I wanted to do an album, and I released my first album when I got out, and it was called You Won't Believe Me. So for those who get a chance to check YouTube out, I think some of the songs are on YouTube. That was on that album, that first album I released called You Won't Believe Me. But if not, I just found a copy of it, I believe, the other day. So I said I was going to turn it into a digital file to upload the whole thing, just to have it up there being my first one, because it just meant a lot to me to do that. When it was recording a dude's independent little studio or one of those little outhouses type things, those the mobile little houses that you can buy, the sheds or whatever, one of the sheds. And from it wasn't in nobody's closet, but it was still cool. The guy did a good job, man. It was called Luce Studios. They did a good little job in the town, and like I said, I met a couple of them little guys while I was in prison right before I got out. So it was cool. I got a chance to do that first record that I did. I did a song called My Scars. So that song, out of all of them songs, that song right there would be the one I would say you go check it out. I know it's on YouTube. It's called Black Phoenix, My Scars. It's a song that pretty much talk about my transition through prison, what happened, and getting out, and just I survived, so I believe anybody else can. Chapter 11. I'm gonna get up close. It's easier said than done. The only reason I'm saying it's easier said than done because once you get out, we have this thinking that your relationship gonna be a certain way, your life gonna be a certain way. You do this, and after doing all that time, man, I didn't realize how messed up I was mentally, like how many strongholds I had, and how things just wasn't, you know, things just wasn't like they was trying to tell me, from being in church and going to church, and the evangelists that come through and telling me about how it's going to be when you get out. It was just a different situation. Like, it was completely different. That's why I say it's easier said than done. Like, I went through a lot of struggles with jobs. Like, I ended up finding another job. And with this job, it was called Jayco, and I was with them for a while. And in this company is where I got introduced to flux core. So I ended up getting certified, just in shop certified with them. And we did stick and flux core welding on it. They did a lot of industrial work. So that's where I got introduced to the iron work and physically, like learning how to do the genie lifts, the area lifts, sky track, stuff like that. Putting harnesses on, being on buildings, at this steel mill down there. So I learned a lot of skills from them. And I also learned that a lot of the things that people talk about, it's a good game when you in the cell, man, or you in an environment where you don't have certain tangible things. It's easy to say, I won't do that. I don't need this. I don't need that, until you get out. Now you out free, and you see that now you understand why people make certain decisions, because it's real out here. Like, you working hard, like, man, like I say, learning the system of working, man. Just it reminded me of prison to a certain aspect, because I was free, but I wasn't free still. You know what I mean? Like, I was on this job. I'm the only black person. I want to say that I'm the only black person on there. Rare, you know. I even had them say that in a little town. Oh man, you one of the only black guys around. And like I say, I fell in love with a lot of those older, good old boys, white dudes that was there, because they taught me a lot. And a couple of them broke my heart, which is my friend Michael, his dad. His dad pretty much called me a nigger, and I didn't really get it, why he would do that. And I looked out for Mike all the time. Mike got into drugs, and he was doing drugs, and it wasn't my thing. I wasn't feeding them drugs. You know what I'm saying? But that's what he was doing. And I come out there, and I guess his dad, used to always drink a lot. And sometimes I come out there, I get in the bind or something, need to hold $100, and he'll let me get it. He kept money. He just get his check and threw it in his pocket. You know what I mean? He kept money, and he'll give me $100. I come back over there and pay him. No problem. And then he just turned to a different person on me, man. And that was my first sign of growing up, by actually seeing how racism is, how you can be good and go over to these people's house, and you think you're friends with them, and you think they see you like a equal, like just being a person, and then now you just another nigga from down the street, you know. So that's why I said a lot of it was easier said than done, man, because my heart got broke a lot of times, you know what I mean? Just dealing with that hate and that racism, like from jobs and being in that town, Newport. And it was just, you know, it opened my eyes to a truth that I necessarily wasn't ready for. And I made a lot of bad decisions, y'all. I'm gonna be honest with you. And like I say, life ended up taking a little twist for me. Let's go to the next chapter. Chapter number 12. My second release after 2011. My second release. I ended up going back to prison for 3 counts of fraud for $10 bills. I didn't make the money. I got caught up with 3 $10 bills. The guy that was actually involved in it, I didn't tell on him. And because I felt like he was going to own his charge, you know what I mean? Because they caught him out, so surely he's going to own this, get me off this. He didn't. And he ended up trying to say that I told on him. Now, all I had to do was tell. Because they wanted to know where the money was being made at. And I was like, I don't know. If I'd have told him that it was him, then I wouldn't have went to prison. I got a 5-year sentence. And I had to do 10 months. Now, I was already off parole. I've been out 5 years. Like I say, it's easier said than done. I went through a lot. My marriage now, I'm divorced. And life happened, man. You know, life happened to me right before all of this crazy stuff got to going on. I ended up jumping back into the streets. You know, it's like hanging out with a couple guys that I was already affiliated with from prison, and stuff's got to go in left field. And then I started dipping back into the streets, started hustling, you know, getting money. The money wasn't coming fast from the job, and I knew some guys I could make some money with, you know what I mean? So here I am again. I'm hustling, but I'm not, you know, necessarily taking a big risk, but I'm still, you know, I'm not doing nothing violent, you know, like I was when I went with younger. I'm just hustling, making money. So now it's all about the hustle, you know. And I end up creating my son during my exile, I would say. Me and my wife was separated at the time. And I ended up meeting my son's mom at a club. We had a little fling for a while. I seen who she was. I was happy that it was over. I was trying to build a relationship back with my wife, you know, and she called me a month or so later and said she was pregnant. Now I got a baby on the way, and I think it kept my wife from wanting to fix things, and she ended up getting real bitter, even though we were separated at the time when this baby was born. I think she ended up really getting real bitter behind that, and caused her to do some things that really hurt me. And that's why I want to talk about this, because this changed my life too. So after I get out of prison in 2011, me and my wife had made a decision that we're going to work things out. I did. I've been through the wash. We're going to flip this thing around, because like I say, this is my pen pal. I got a lot of love for her. She was with me when no one else was. So if I'm going to give someone else a chance, it'll be her, correct? So she decided, wanted me to come back. I get out of prison. I parole at her house. My mom and my daughter, baby girl, come see me, run to the gate, grab me, daddy, like I could. Oh, it was so exciting, because she was so happy to see me. My little girl was. And I get in the car, and her mom was quiet. She hugged me. I'm glad you out, but you could tell that something was different. And while I was there, she told me she was talking to a guy that she was talking to while I was, you know, we were separated. And I was cool with that, because we were separated. I was just like, you know, is it going to be all right when I get out? Do I need to leave? Or y'all going, nah, you don't need to go nowhere. I got it. It's going to be cool. I get out. It wasn't cool, y'all. She had a lot going on. So I get out. We sitting on the bed talking in the room. We ain't even had sex yet, just talking. Just get out. My daughter was in there playing, with her talking. She got the sweater on, this hoodie, and she's sitting there all bunged up. I'm like, man, what's up? She moved the things out the way. She got hickeys all over her neck. This is my wife. I never put a hickey on her neck. Like, she used to tell me how she think it's nasty and gross. It's nasty and gross. I don't want that stuff on me. But now she with a new man, and evidently she think it's sexy now because she got hickeys all over her damn neck. I'm like, damn. I don't know if he did that in spite, knowing I'm finna get ready to get out that day or what. But just to let me know something subliminally, I don't know. So that night, we, made love or whatnot. I woke up and I had to go use the bathroom. And I remember getting up going to use the bathroom, and she wasn't in the bed. I didn't think nothing of it because she smoked Black and Miles. I'm thinking she'd probably be outside smoking a cigar because she do stuff like that. I got back in the bed. I woke up the second time to go use the bathroom. She was in the bed with me. So I didn't think nothing of it. I used the bathroom. I got back in the bed. Well, when I got back in the bed, I heard her phone ringing, but it was like vibrating. So, me personally, it's early. I'm thinking this might be something important. I'm not thinking no drama, nothing. I just grabbed the phone. It wasn't saved. The number wasn't saved, just a number. I clicked the phone over. I didn't even get a chance to say hello. Once I clicked it over, they seen it was, hey, come back over here. I was in the bed. I ain't hear you. I was in the back. I ain't hear you knocking on the door. I said, she just came over there knocking on the door? He just stopped on the phone. She sleep. Hey, somebody said they up now. You can go back to them. That's why I started. So we get into talking. That's the situation. So that day, my mom and them had to leave anyway. Now, take this again into consideration. I just got out. This on a Friday. This is on a Friday. This is a Saturday when this happened. I leave Monday because my mom. I leave that weekend Sunday because my mom had an operation Monday. So I said, hey, I'm going to leave, pack my bag, I'm going to be gone for a few days, let you fix this up because I'm going to tell you what else happened, let you fix this situation up, I'll be back. Okay. So that Saturday while I'm home, I'm chilling, I get a knock on the door. So I go to the door. Who is it? See this little dude at the door. What's up, man? Hey, man, so-and-so here? I'm like, nah, he ain't here. Oh, my bad. He leave. It's the dude's son came to the house looking for him because he normally be over there. So now, that happens. So I'm there like, okay, this shit is deeper than what I'm thinking. She bring this dude around my daughter and everything. It's supposed to be a fling, but she bringing a man that she's cheating with around my daughter to the house. So now I'm like in my feelings a little bit, but kind of like, I can't really get real mad, So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go on and leave, let this stuff weigh itself out. I leave. Come back, y'all, because my mom couldn't have the operation. She had to have a heart operation, but a tooth or something had to be pulled or be corrected or something before they did this operation. So they had to postpone it. I don't have a phone, y'all, because I just got out. All I got is a vehicle, so I just drive back home. Tell mom, okay, when they redo everything, let me know. I'll be back up here. I just drive back home, want to get back home. I've been out, want to get around my family. Get back home, y'all. Pull up in the house. Open up the door. My stepson sitting on the couch playing the game. When he seen me, he looked at me like he seen God. That's when I knew something was wrong. Like I felt it in my gut. I'm like, what the fuck? He quiet. He just looked at me like, he just stopped, like froze, like literally. I walked around the corner. Here come my wife. Your deal's in the trunk, because she had to get my welding hood and my stuff that I left with her for my, that was like my equipment I used to make money with. It was a kit. I had like a $500 welding hood in there, you know what I mean? And I'm like, that's a kit. I need that to make money. Oh, it's in the trunk. I went and got out the pawn shop to try to, to get me to go outside instead of coming in. And I'm like, what's going on? Bro, family. I walk around the corner. This guy, I cannot make this up, sitting in my bed, laying in my bed, in his boxers, eating some of the food that I had literally just bought, because I get a check when you get the little check when you come from prison, $100 check. Then my homeboy girlfriend worked at the grocery store, so he blessed me for like a couple $100 worth of groceries because he knew I'm just getting out. He's like, man, hold that little money, just go get everything you want and bring it up here to the counter. She took care of me like I paid for it. You know what I mean? Like literally, he gave me some love. This dude sitting there eating all my damn food. I'm like, what the fuck? The first thing he did was just stop. He didn't say nothing. I looked at my ex-wife, or at my ex-wife at the time. She was my wife then. I'm like, man, what's going on? What the fuck is this? Do you not know literally she attempted to try to act like this guy wasn't sitting on this damn bed eating this fucking food right in front of me? Y'all, before I knew it, I lost my cool. Before I knew it, I lost my cool. I didn't hit her, but I grabbed her and I pushed her back, and she was right by the window, and her head, like the back of her head, hit the glass and bust the window out. So now the window, bing, it sounded like we really not fighting, but we really wasn't. The window bust. I'm thinking to myself, damn, I just got out. All I seen then was prison. He's sitting over there, he ain't saying nothing. I'm telling her like, damn, at least if I was fucking with you, at least I helped you. I won't be no bitch ass nigga unless somebody whoop you right in front of me. At least I do that. This bitch ass nigga gonna sit there and watch you get your ass whooped. And I didn't whoop her, y'all. I just, kind of choked a little bit though and pushed the head through the window. But I'm upset, so I'm talking, valid. And the guy was like, man, she told me y'all was separated. She told me y'all, that's all he kept saying. She told me I don't want no involved in this, kinfolk. And just so happened he was an older gangster. Check this out. He was like, I don't want no involved in this, kinfolk. I didn't know, man. I didn't know. And I got to do nothing but take his word for it. So I said, you know what? You know what I'm saying? I'm mad, man. This time I hear somebody talking about the police coming. This all I hear now is prison. And I'm like, forget it. I'm ready to go on one. Like literally, I had my hands around her neck. And I probably was finna push her over and get on his ass. My daughter came in the room, grabbed my leg, was crying. I'll never forget. This is what stopped me from going back to prison. Crying, said, Daddy, please don't go back to jail. Holding my leg. It's like she took me out of trance. Like I was like in the middle of a trance. Like I don't know how it was finna go bad in this room, y'all. It was finna go bad real fast. My daughter grabbed my leg and it brought me back to reality somehow. It snapped me back and I just stopped. And a tear hit my eye, y'all. I'll never forget. I cried. I looked down at my baby. I said, baby, your daddy ain't finna go back to prison. I picked her up, walked out the room, went in the living room or the kitchen, grabbed some garbage bags, started getting my possessions. Got all of my possessions. By the time I finished gathering everything up, this gentleman was leaving the room with his clothes on. And he grabbed a couple of the bags I had and said, brother, let me help you get this out. Let me leave with you. I think we need to talk. I let go of the bag. We getting ready to head out the door. Here go the police at the door. I can't make this up, y'all. The police that was at the door just so happened to know he knew me. And he forgot where he was coming from when he seen me because he was happy to see me out. So when he seen me, like, man, what's up, Joe? Just we get to talking. He forgot all about it. He over here for a domestic violence charge. And then it hit him. He see Sarah. She all frustrated and red in the face, crying. He looked at her. I never forget. He said, what's going on? I said, man, everything was good. I said it just like this, y'all. Everything was good. I came home today. I walked in and I caught another nigger in my bed. I said, I caught another nigga in my bed, man. I said, I came home and caught a nigga in my bed. He looked at me. He looked at dude. He looked at Sarah and said, are you okay? She said, yes, sir, I'm okay. He looked at me. Y'all have a nice day now. And turned around and walked off. God had to be with me. That if it was any other police, I would have went to jail. Thumbs down. It would have been a parole violation right then. So God was with me. We walked out, took our bags. Dude left with me. Me and him ended up talking. My daughter was with me. And needless to say, me and my wife got divorced after then. And that's why I say it's easier said than done. So much happened getting out. And this time, I'm out again with a fresh start. And all I can think about is making something happen positive not going back that same route. Chapter 13. Meeting Koffie. And I'm drinking coffee. So my wife's name now is called, her name is Koffie. It's Koffie. It's how it's spelled. Doing all of this stuff I was going through, I had made it in my mind. You know how we dudes do. I went through that past relationship. I was married to my son's mom, only for like 30, 40 days. We was married, maybe 60 days. I mean, not 60, but 4 to 6 months we was married. The little piece of time we was married so short, we got a Norman, where we got divorced. She paid for it. It didn't take no. It didn't even last 6 months. Needless to say, coming into 2013, I meet Koffie. But I'm being independent. I had made my mind up. I'm gonna say this. I said I'm done. I'm not dating nobody white because my first wife was white. The girl that I met at that club in Fayetteville, my son's mom, she was white. It was a headache. I'm like, I'm done with white women. I'm messing with my sisters. I'm done. It was just something that happened because I was just in a situation. I'm like, I'm done. And I used to say some evil things. The white girl can't do it. I'm just done. So I said all these things. I'm being independent. I got my own little storefront jumping off in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I'm up and coming. Things are going. You know what I mean? And I meet this girl in the spring. And I never forget because it was spring. They say spring produced new life. So my daughter, as I'm going through this transition with my ex, my son's mom, which is another issue, I'll tell you what she did while I'm getting into this. I left her house to get my own place. Well, while I was there, she called us up, put me out, I'm leaving or whatever. I'm like, I didn't have to leave, but I'm like, I'm gonna leave because I don't want no drama. And she was like, well, your daughter can stay here until you find you a place. I said, okay. Y'all, I wasn't even gone a week. She called me every day. When you gonna get your daughter out of my house? I'm like, damn, I thought you said that she can be there. This is your daughter too. We still married. Now you want me to hurry up and get her out. You know what I'm saying? So it was just some bullshit. And you know what? I still go through bullshit with this lady. It had never, that's why I was so grieved when I found out she was pregnant, because I knew it was gonna be number drama. But needless to say, I was like, I'm done with white women. I don't want to see no white girl. Never, ever again. You know what I'm saying? My daughter bring home this girl. She looked black, just looked a little light-skinned. She said, she called me first. Dad, I got a friend, because she come over after school. I'm like, yeah, she can come over. So she came over, I met her. She said, my friend name is Lyric, I met her. She was like, well, her mom want to, know your numbers so she can know where her daughter is, because she don't, people different. She want to know where she at. So she probably gonna want to meet you. I said, all right, but you know how kids is. I ain't making no mind, nothing, you know what I mean, left that long. So here I am thinking, I'm finna meet this black woman, because Ty told me her name was Koffie. So as we move into our new house, it was a duplex in Fayetteville. As we moving in and getting everything situated, Lyric came over there, and I was back there cleaning up or something, looking for my keys. And I get a call to the front. They say that Koffie was up there. I'm thinking Koffie is a black woman. I go to the door. That's a woman with blonde hair, blue eyes. I start stuttering in some motion. I'm like, like I never forget. She'll tell you to this day she thought it was cute. She could tell I wasn't expecting her. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm looking for my keys right now. I lost them, misplaced them. Let me find my keys. So I'm like, it caught me off guard. But I met her. She was coming in. They was coming in from California, moving back into Arkansas, trying to get themselves established. She was a single mother. I was a single father. And we were just dating to be friends. At that time, we was doing more of a courtship. And she was helping me because I was moving around the streets doing my thing, but I had a place, and I was like, hey, you can stay here with me, with my daughter, make sure she good, and your daughter, so that way y'all had a spot. So we was more like roommates, at first. And then literally, we wasn't no sex involved or nothing. It was like maybe almost 6 months later when we started having a relationship. But it was more like friendship. We was getting to know one another, laugh and talk, we'll hang out. I was helping her. I felt like she was a good woman. She needed some help. getting herself established. I was single. I needed some help. And like I say, our daughters was the same age. And she was just cool. So she was a cool woman, man. And she came in my life, y'all, and I can't lie. That's my wife to this day. We've been together since then. And she has most definitely been a rock for me. Like, you're a judge a book by its cover. That's why I said it's funny, because I said I ain't being with no white girl and this, and then God sent this angel to me that's so necessarily she's white and her name is Koffie, which makes me think she was black, but she got like literally my wife is white, but she got like you can tell she got a heart like she got a black heart. Like I said, like she loved all people. She's not a prejudiced person. She's not hateful, and she loved her family. She would fight for a family, literally. Like she's a good woman, and she came through and healed me when I was really at a messed up point, like or wanting to just really get bitter. You know how me and one of my guys from Atlanta that I did some time with, he used to say, man, when I get out, I'm gonna be a dirt bag. So, we was like, man, we got out. We were like, we gonna be dirt bags. All we gonna do is smash and get some money. We ain't invested in no woman. I ain't with all that because they too much headache. I was like, man, I ain't with the headache. I'm just gonna get a bag. And if I need some, I'll pay for it. Forget it. I ain't with that. We said we're gonna be dirt bags. We're gonna get some money and be dirt bags. So shout out to my guy from Atlanta, man. You know what I mean? So me and him did some time and got out together, you know what I mean? But on that last trip. And it was just one of those situations where you meet somebody that you weren't expecting, and meeting them open your life up. Like literally, like to this day, I can't tell y'all the love. Like she's been working on me, because in prison, I lost a lot of my empathy for people, because I seen so much hate there and so much that having empathy a lot for someone else could either get me killed in there or get me fucked in there. So I threw that shit out the window. And so it's always been do or die with me. Stop crying, make it happen, be strong, survive, and I was always like that with my girl, with my oldest daughter. And I remember her talking to me like, she's a girl, Joe. I understand you was raised like this, but you should be a little bit more softer with her. She don't understand. But then she also tell my daughter, your dad wasn't raised like a regular teenager. He had to do some hard times. So his work ethics or his parenting is a little different. So she came in and helped me in my daughter relationship. Like our relationship ain't like guns, guns are all super nice, but we got one and it's growing, and we just had to learn from one another. She lost her mom while I was in, as soon as I got out, my oldest daughter did. Her mom died on me. I ended up raising her. So as soon as I get out of prison, her mom died. I ended up having her, raising her. Then my mom died 2012, so she lost both of her moms. So Koffie came in at a time of healing, and she literally, like Koffie, she woke us up and gave us motivation to say we can face the world again. So I love you, baby. I appreciate everything you do. I couldn't even do nothing that I'm doing right now without you. So I appreciate it, and I just wanted to say that you are the world to me. So just wanted to say that. Let's go to the next chapter. 3 years in the desert, chapter 14. I wanted to say 3 years in the desert because 3 years in the desert changed my life, y'all. Being out there is when I became a man. I moved to Phoenix in 2017, and like Moses, the desert was my wilderness. The desert is kind of where I had to go off and go astray and find myself, find my purpose, find who I was, find my mind, find my relationship with him, find why, my reason. And I found that in the desert, literally. The desert was that wilderness stage. The desert was that stage that I had to walk alone. You know that old Green Bay song, Green Day or whatever it is, Green Day song that said walk alone? I had to walk alone, y'all. Like literally, I had to walk alone, and I had to find me. And I think that's the time when like Moses and the burning bush, literally, because you be in Phoenix and it's hot and bushes do catch on fire like that in the desert. It was like I literally had to go out there and talk to God, man. I had to find me because went through all this stuff with divorce, and now I'm married now, but I lost friends, and I had some friends that burnt me, and the guy that burnt me was my best friend. I ended up going back to prison for, with that money, and then he burnt me again when I tried to fix it once we got out, and I just was bitterness, man. I was mad at everybody. I lost my mom, and then on my way moving into Phoenix, I lost my grandfather, and I couldn't turn back around to go see him, to go even go to the funeral. But then I still had ill will towards him too, because I didn't have the same relationship with him like my other cousins did. You know, I didn't have that same relation. I loved him because he was my grandfather, but I didn't love him like, it wasn't like a warmness there. I had more love for my dad's dad than my mom's dad. And only because a situation happened one time, and it just hurt me. And I remember sharing it with my mom, and my mom told me to forgive him and just let it go. She, tried to make a few excuses for him. He was raised, he took care of all those real hard, so he's real particular about his possessions. And what it was, I got stranded on the highway one day. Our vehicle broke down. I had money, y'all. All I had was a few numbers in my phone. I called him and said, "Hey, man, I'm stranded. Can I pay you to come down with your truck?" He had a trailer too. "Could you come down here and get me? I'm on the side of the road. I can give you gas." You know what he said? "Man, I can't come way up there. That's going to put too many miles on my truck. I just bought my truck." He left me on the side of the highway, y'all, because he said he couldn't put too many miles on his truck. But this is what he said: "You go call so-and-so now, see if they'll come and get it, and tell them to come by the house. They can pick my trailer up, though. You can use the trailer, but I don't want to use the truck, though. I just got it. I don't want to put no miles on. I just got it." That's what he did. So that hurt me so much, being older, witnessing that, when you completely in despair, when all the people that you thought that loved you will leave you stranded. And my little cousin ended up coming to get me, my little cousin Sam. Love my little cousin to this day. We don't speak this much. I haven't spoke to him in a while. But he came and saved me that day. And I'll never forget that. And out of everybody, he was somebody that I wouldn't even expect him. I don't even know how it happened. I got his number. He was close by, actually, not too far from where I was, at a girlfriend's house or something. And so it was just convenient for him. But needless to say, I couldn't keep the car. Wasn't nothing wrong with the timing chain belt. I owned the car. We just stripped that. I was so mad. We took the rims off of it. I took the system out of it that I had in it, and left that bitch there. And I called the junkyard and said, "Come get it. It's on the side of the road." And we left. Literally, that's what I did. I took everything that was of value off that car, because I owned it. You hood, you get money, you like, fuck it, I'll buy another one. And that's what I did, y'all. I took my rims off of it. I had nice rims on it, nice TV and stereo setting. We took that out, put it in his truck, all that shit off, left it on blocks. And I'm like, I'll buy another one when I get to where I'm going. And that's what I did. So I learned a lot from that situation. But the desert is literally what woke me up. Chapter number 15. Get into the good stuff. We're about to sum it up soon. My first product was actually the shooting target. I started working on the shooting target first. And I started working on the shooting target because my neighbor in Phoenix, in the RV park, was a ex-sheriff. So, he was familiar with guns and stuff, and he seen I was a fabricator. We get to talking, later after being neighbors. And he was just talking about how I should come up with some neat shooting target that can break down. And he gave me some ideas. And so I'm working on something. I presented to him, "What you think about this?" And we took it out there as a sample, and he shot it and played with it. So it's on YouTube. You can see the guy, he's out there shooting my shooting targets. And that was my first product. And then I made the staircases because I live in RVs, and I seen that a lot of the older couples need staircases, and a lot of the staircases that be on the RVs are still kind of rinky dinky. You know what I mean? If you're living there, you want something a little bit more stable. So I wanted to make something that could be broke down, that could be hauled. So I came up with the staircases second for the RVs, but the shooting target was actually my first product that I came up with. And it was because I realized it was product over talent. That hit me. And it just realized that no matter how hard I worked, I was being judged. Even out in Phoenix, I was being judged by my color. And I just got tired of being judged. And I'm like, you know what? I got to come up with something to keep people from judging me. And it just hit me. If I come up with a product, you don't judge a product when you go to Walmart. You don't ask who made this. You say, "Ooh, this is good. I need that." So that's what I decided to do. I said, you know what? I'm tired of this racism. I'm tired of this hate. Let me come up with some products I can put on the shelf or sell online or something. So I started focusing on that, and that's what I'm on now. Since then, I come up with the Welding Skids. So you can also visit my website. It's www.hogon welding.com. That's www.hogon welding.com, and you can check out my website and see some of the stuff I got on the website for sale on some of the handmade things I did. But I started off with the shooting targets, then I went to the staircases, then to the welding skids, curb signs. Now we do container conversions where we take 40-foot high cubes or 45-foot high cubes and we turn them into two units, two 20-foot high cubes or a 25 and a 20-foot high cube. And we could do any type of conversion you think of. That's what I got into. But that's how I started. Like, it's like, I got tired of people judging me because of how I look and me going to prison and being a felon. I can't tell you how many good jobs I couldn't get because I was a felon. Then a job that I couldn't get because I was I didn't have this certificate. It was always some judgment, but don't nobody judge you when you got products. And Master P just, I watched a video one day and he was talking about how products outweigh talent. And I created that hashtag and just started saying products over talent, like, because I believe it now. And I believe that we got to have our own. And that's truly how we find our financial freedom. Number 16. 3 kids by 3 different women. I want to say that because I have 3 kids by 3 different women. My first child, mother is black, and my daughter's 23. My second child, mother is white, and she's 14. And my third child, my son, is 9. His mother is white, and like I say, he's 9. And I have 3 kids by 3 different women. By no means did I try for it to be the way that it is, but my first child, mom, like I said, I was young. It is what it is. I was 16 years old. We was messing around. She was older than me, actually. She was grown. I think she was 19. I think she's 3 years older than me. She was like 19 at the time, I believe, but she was grown. And, I made that mistake as a young man, but I always loved my baby and I was always there. And my second child, Amaris, was on purpose. Like, I literally tried to make her, like, I got out of prison March the 8th. My daughter was born December the 8th. I remember my mama saying, boy, if I ain't no better, I think she was already pregnant. So you better watch that baby when it come out. Make sure you look at it. And man, my daughter looked so much like me. My mama said, you couldn't say that ain't your baby. I don't care what you do. That's your baby. America is your baby. You know what I'm saying? And she even got my setup, my high nature, always moving around, mine always going. We have the same spirit. She just me in a female form. You know what I mean? And she's smart. So she got her mom's intellect. But my second child, Andrew, was actually supposed to be named Amari because my goal was to have Amaris and Amari, or Amari and Amaris, whichever came first, by my wife, my pen pal from prison, and it just didn't work out like that. So, while we were separated, I met a lady and I was using protection, but she ended up getting pregnant. I don't remember it busting. I know a couple times we had sex where I did pull out. I'm gonna be honest with you because that's what I did. But that doesn't mean that you still can't have a baby. And she got pregnant, and that's what it is, man. I love my kids, but I can't knock someone. When I hear people and the other guys talk about these girls being hoes, man, she got all this. I'm like, well, shit, you can call me a hoe too, then. I got 3 kids by 3 different women. I'm not no better than she is, so I'm not. I've never been caught up in calling women hoes unless that's what they are. You know what I mean? But just because you got 3 kids, I mean, my aunt that I love to death, my mom's baby sister, she got 4 kids by 4 different people. And she was, just like it happens, you fall in love or you have different relationships, and just so happened a baby was made every time. And she never meant for it to go that route, but that's the route it went, and it is what it is. I mean, ain't no love lost, but sometimes we make decisions growing up, and she got with everything, like every dude she got with, she wanted to be with, and they didn't necessarily want to be with her until, when the baby was getting, and I didn't want to go to another person, and that's just what it was, so I can't knock anybody from being that, but I just want to say personally, that I love my babies. I didn't meant for things to go the way that they did, but they did, and I embrace them. And I just say that regardless of my kids being the way that they are and divided, we are still one. And I'm glad that my genes are strong, but we still look alike, even my grandbabies. So, you know, I'm just thankful that regardless of how things turned out, it still turned out good, you know. So I'm thankful and I'm happy just for that. So, number 17, your imagination is your limitation. The conclusion. So to sum this up is to say that whatever it is that you imagine, that's your limitation. You set your own boundaries up here. No matter what you face in life, prison, jail, poverty, abuse, your imagination is your limitation. If you allow your imagination to be hindered by wherever you go through, then that's where it's going to stay. But just because you go through something don't mean you can't transcend. So I wanted to share my story with you physically, sitting here talking to you. I took some time out just to literally just tell you some real things. And I wanted to be able to do it in the video because I never seen nobody just give a raw video about their life and just kind of give you more insight. There's a lot of things that I didn't talk about, but there's a lot of things I did that I wanted to let you know these are the things that really shifted me, that changed me, that turned me into who I am, that helped me survive. And I took it and ran with it, man. And that's why when you go to our website now and you see some of my hashtags, you'll see Imagine Your Container, you'll see Welding and Hip Hop hashtag, you'll see Product Over Talent. And when you go to the website, www.HogOn2017.com, it'll say your limitation, your imagination is your limitation. Because that's what I realized. Above everything that I said, everything that I went through, the stuff that I'm going through today, my imagination is my limitation. There's nothing I can't do once I make up my mind and say, hey, this is what's going to be done. This is what's going to happen. And I'm going to survive this. So regardless of what you go through, just keep this in mind. You're going to have to do it yourself. You're going to have to get your hands dirty. You're going to have to be brave and stand up and fight adversity, fight fear. You're going to have a vision. You're going to have to stand alone and walk alone. You're going to have to go through some things and grow up and learn and accept some things and accept your role in things because everybody play a role in it. You're not innocent. No matter if your role was just 5% and theirs was 95, you still play the role in it. So accept your role, grow from it. And one thing I say, don't regret anything. Because if you live to have regrets, you can't fix them. If you got something you want to do, go on and do it. Because later, it's probably going to be too late for you to do it. So I just want to live with no regrets that way. I really want to be something. I want to be Products Over Talent. I want my business to really help people. And I want this video to encourage whoever listens to it, to let them know no matter where you're from, what hood you're from, how you grew up. You can take a messed up situation and you can make it better. You can get your hog on. You can literally hustle over grounded obstacles naturally. And that's why I say that, because you got to do it from the heart. It got to come naturally. It got to come from here. And once you get it from here, then you start on your business. Then you start honoring those who came before you. And that's why I turned the name into Honoring Our Generation Ornamental Nature, because we want to honor those who came before us, who paved the way. I send my prayers out to everybody. I love you and I appreciate y'all for checking me out. Hold on.